July 12, 2018, suddenly came the day of lightning filled the city sky. In the sky among the thunder rings, a woman hung in the air with a luminous sphere behind her. Angelic beauty girl in a beautiful white dress with the same beautiful white similar to the crown, was decorated with her inhuman ears. With a bitter emptiness in the bewitching blue eyes, she said, resting with the world of my the thunder clean everything. At that moment, lightning began to ruin the wreckage rushed to the girl with great speed. Young, with easy unshaven, very tired of the guy our main character, having no time shouting in thought, he rushed carefully, he rushed to the woman. In a matter of seconds, reducing the distance, he pushed her. The charming culprit of the apocalypse was surprised by what he saw. From the corners of her consciousness, the image of someone similar to this guy began to pop up, someone who acted exactly the same in the distant past. The phrase "live a good life for me," what was said by the main character, only plunged her into memories more. Meanwhile, while the girl wandered in her thoughts, our inglorious savior was already saying goodbye to life. A moment later, the giant boulder crushed the guy. This sad, unfair sight touched the soul of a white-haired appeared on her beautiful blue eyes. Death was really all supposed to end just like that. A moment later, the colors of our hero flooded the TI. Here the main character thought a little closely. While something pink was trying to squeeze him, the realization came with the onslaught that the forces are leaving the body. Why do you rub my ass? This is the first thing our hero thinks about being such a difficult situation. While he was trying to realize his position, with tender hands he was wrapped in green diapers. A beautiful woman with scarlet eyes and hair of the color of the ash held the child in her at the woman's eyes full of love. The baby could not understand who it was. After a second, the shock of awareness absorbed the guy. I have become a baby? The cry of the baby immediately concerned the young mother, but after a few moments of thought, she realized that the baby was most likely hungry. So, without thinking twice, she exposed her breasts and began to feed her blood. A delicate blush covered her face. At first, without understanding what our hero was confused, but then he quickly realized and began to absorb the liquid. Strange thoughts filled the baby's head as soon as hot sweet milk filled his mouth. He could and would like to hide it, but red paint, which poured all his face, betrayed him with giblets. To be precise, in a basin with water. Our hero began to think that because of the movement his memory was damaged by everything he remembered this only how the end of the world and a young girl began. The image of a beautiful woman commanding lightning flickered in my head. The image of the city destroyed by these very lightning. A woman's haze, it seemed she screamed something, while his brown hair was wiped from the water. He reflected on what was said by that Hickens get married. Thoughts about the memory that they were defeated, as if the glass did not give rest, forcing to be in the thoughts of our baby all the time. But something could still tear him out of the web of to the side. He sought his young mother. It is worth admitting that she treats me well, he thought. While his cheeks were filled with blood, my son looked at me. The young mother screamed to her thoughts was the image of a beautiful baby that showed interest in her mother. With the heart full of maternal love, she raised her baby and, not restraining herself, began to squeeze him. 2 hugs made her the happiest in the world. And so the life of our hero began in a new, unknown world for him. For 5 years, our hero lived in this world has quite much addicted to maternal love, especially to mother's milk. For all the years that he lived here, the memory never returned to him. He learned to understand this girl as his mother and firmly decided for himself once in a past life he could not protect his relatives. Then in this life he would give everything up to protect them. He saw many times how his mother works diligently for his sake and also cries sincerely. How cute she laughs at him, and how she always indulges, is connected then, and filled his heart with love. The memories of how, before he neglected to turn to his mother who constantly reminded him that he still did not marry his 30 years. Ray also curious memories of how his mother constantly forgot to knock at the most inappropriate moments and about his miserable excuses that he only did not have time to put on his pants from the soul. But now, after so much time, he understands that she was always worried about him. His thoughts were interrupted by his mother called to prepare dinner for her in the kitchen. But our hero is not very happy with his mother's cooking, who looks more like waste and insists on the fact that it would be better if he eats milk. It is necessary to summarize everything that it turned out to know in 5 years the spent in this world. First and darily, he lived in an ordinary family, because he was a little sad for him. Even in this life, he was not born rich. This advanced world on our boat was stuck in this god and a forgotten village without Wi-Fi, electricity. However, there are several useful elemental spirits. All inside him is a photograph of his father from this world. His mother never told him what was within, and where he now. Every time our hero tried to find out about this, she immediately began to cry. And this is his beautiful mother. He considered her ideal, except for cooking. His is their neighbor. Everyone calls him 30, already 30, but he is still not married. And even this stubble looks like some kind of pervert old fart. Our hero is very glad that he did not look like him. So Yun, today I caught a lot of fish, and I brought you. A neighbor smiling in all teeth said. He held on a hook blue-toothy fish, continuing to talk about what he wanted to share meat, and that the fish was clear that he was a little shy about his mother's mother. While he stood the doorway, it was clear that he was a little shy about his mother's mother. But the main character is clearly not. Angrily cursed the old pervert in his opinion for having come again. Not wanting to endure the presence of a neighbor, he decided to use a secret technique called a sudden hysteria. With wild cries, how scary this is, a bad person, mom save me. He ran to his mother bursting with tears and grabbed her leg, continuing to scream, get rid of this scoundrel. Mother, he is a bad man. He poked his finger in a clearly fanned neighbor. From such a turn of events, a neighbor that clearly wanted to help a beautiful lady fell into despair. Under the pressure of his son, Sao Yun, he had to politely refuse to the neighbor whose brother was playing the brother van. So as not to hurt him, she continued to say that he is a good person and does not have to take care of them, and that she has her son and she does not need anything more in her life. A small prankster prison in the arms of his mother giggled with his turn. Sao Yun, as a truly loving mother, did not notice the subtle manipulations of her son. Brother Van, he clearly did not appreciate such a turn of events and cast a look at our hero full of resentment and anger. Having clicked his tongue and grimacing in an obviously unkind smile, he said to himself, we will see. With a deep evening sitting on the windowsill, our hero remembered the earth, about his former body, about his wife, about the street and house in which he used to live. The clouds thickened outside the window, and suddenly, a lightning struck with great force. The around was flooded with light, and after a small period of time, thunder hit the ears. The kid jumped in surprise. What he thought about his wife is somehow connected with the fact that the thunderstorm began. Wait, thunder? He already knew him. He definitely saw him before. In amazement, he stared at the image of a white woman filled his mind. She controlled lightning. She ruined the world. The image of a white woman filled his mind. She controlled lightning. She ruined the world. As if with lightning, acute pain pierced his. This did not last completely better for him, and he decided to go to bed, because what could be more important than a good sleep? The little mouse is something like it in our world, though with a distinctive red bunch of fur on the forehead. She was eating her dinner, but the door opened abruptly, interrupted her. From such a surprise, she squeaked and rushed away. Those who interrupted her meal was a drunk man that he sang something loudly under his breath and walked forward. A drunken man was a neighbor bonded to himself under nose for 5 years. 5 years she gave me a lapel of a turn, and all because of a small bastard. Drinking and resentment hit too much in the head. The saliva dragged from the corner of his mouth, and the blush flooded his whole face. His eyes clearly showed that he would make Sao Yun as soon as he got rid of mouths. A wooden door with a creak opened in the aisle. A silhouette of a drunk van with a bottle in his hand appeared in the aisle. In a drunken delirium, barely holding on his feet, he examined the room in search of his goal. At this time, our unsuspecting hero was sleeping next to the spirits of his mother, who forgot about the blanket, and taking a very strange drained his chin, only emphasizing his carefree. But those people who did not let out the bottle of a man already symbolically hung over him. Owing terrible events, our little girl at least outwardly woke up from his eyes. He thought that these were just the next tricks of mice that steal food. Not completely waking up, he does not notice the shadows behind him. Not bewildered by the child's head and closing his understanding, the baby is trying to get rid of, capture, but in vain. Then in a diabolical smile leaned the finger of his lip and insisted that the child did not make the words of his face. It was clear that it was better to listen to him. And shut up his mouth to our hero with some rack. He began to mock him, saying that he would figure it out now with his mother, and then they will become a family and he will be able to call him a papule. Attempts to get to him come regret that he is not in the old body. Let him not know how to fight, but his height was 180 centimeters, and this is better than now. Suddenly, from nowhere to get a huge stick. Cutting the air hit Van's face and with such force that the comma is breaking up, in turn. Van loses the tooth. The one who struck was the mother of the was fear in her eyes and confidence, because she was ready for anything only to protect her son. Alcohol dulled Van's feeling, and it seemed that even a knocked-out tooth does not bring him many discomfort. Perhaps, on the contrary, it incurred the excitement in it. Pulling a smile and grinning his no longer a complete set of teeth, he said, "Did you wake up? Do not worry, I'm already going. Move away from him, or I will fight," the mother shouted without a shadow of doubt in her voice, because she understood that she was protecting the most expensive in her life. Tears were stubborn on the face of our boyfriend, but quickly picking himself up, he remembered that he was 34 years old and this was not in his position to cry. He began to think through the action plan. He needed a knife to cut the ropes, but the caring mother always laid him very high so that he could not get to him. The resistance of Xiao Yun only incited lust and anger in a neighbor. Starting to tear his shirt, he sentenced, "I didn't think that even you have. There is such a obscure sigh. I like. It is necessary to cut the rope. You need to cut the rope." These thoughts circled in the head of our hero continuously, and in some incredible way, the knife materialized in the boy's left hand. The inscription was engraved on it, "In China." What happened was shocked by our baby, probably even more than the attack of a neighbor. His head filled his head. He materialized here or teleported from another place, or maybe something else. At the same time, Xiao Yun kept the defense of the house in front of the clearly superior enemy forces. "Don't come, leave my house," she continued to scream, although this did not bring any result. Laughing loudly, Van shouted a drunken face and walked towards a fragile woman. "What will you do to me?" he screamed, waving a previously torn his current wretched state. His body shows that he used to be a lot and perhaps even participated in battles. Savannah was clearly not impressive by Cao. Her face expressed anger and aversion to the behavior of the one whom she had considered a friend before, who until recently brought them fish as a treat. Fight, she makes the only way she seems to her. The desperate mother brings a sharp part of a broken stick to his throat and screams that she will kill herself if you are at least approaching the Shah. A drunken neighbor instantly turned tail and lowered his head. He repeated questions to himself. Why? But there was no answer, obviously. An's bright purple eyes right along his red cheeks, red from alcohol. He grimaced and screamed that it was dishonest that he was so kind for all these 5 years and did not understand why he was rejected. Sao Yun, preserving composure, replied that unfortunately love is unfair and that there is no place for him in her heart. The calm and honest answer of the woman whom he loved all these 5 years did not suit him. Having clicked his tongue and thinking everything, he said that since he could not get what he wants, he himself would kill her. At this time, the son, who received the knife, had already cut the ropes, cursing every second of delay, every second. He noticed a little spirit that lives with them. Just a look was enough for a plan to ripen in their heads. Cutting the ropes, he immediately stood on his feet without releasing a knife from his hand, squeezed him as tightly as he could. The little fiery spirit jumped out of the corner, soared the air, and a bright flash of light flooded the room. A fiery spirit similar to a jellyfish strained its whole body to study as much light as possible. The bat had to close his face so as not to damage his eyes, or from surprise. Trying to open his eyes, he cursed everything around, even that the elemental spirit against him, although he did nothing bad to him. Taking advantage of the fact that the enemy is confusing in essence with his only chance of victory, he rushed forward to hit him in the most vulnerable place in a man. Having aimed well, he soared the air with his best Shaolin technique, entitled Bird Rook, straight in the wings. Screaming loudly, he hit all his strength. Probably he had never attached so much power using this body. There was a loud. Immediately became clear that the blow had its effect. Van grabbed his face at the same second and began to scream loudly in inhuman voice. No one was able to survive such a blow without consequences. Jumping down and obviously entering the courage, our hero began to say clicked phrases that he would definitely pay for all the insults that his mother said, and that no one dares to offend her. Swinging with his maiden che on a blade, while the bath departed from pain, holding on to his crotch and whimpering like a dog. Hero, using the moment, ran to Van from the back shouting, "Come on, I will increase your prison wallet." It was the beginning of his second amazing technique called the blow, included in the annals. "You will thank me when you find yourself in prison," shouted a Sun Vanzi into his knife right in the most valuable hole on the man's body. There was a wild cry of a neighbor and the sounds of a spilling blood. Feeling his superiority, our baby occupied a combat rack and shouted, "Hey, a piece of shit, try my fist, remember him well too. Convey to your grandchildren." Swinging that there is urine, he put all his strength into a fist. It seems even the skin turned red and the veins pulsed the blood that sent to a moment. He struck his whole life, having passed the entire room when breaking all the furniture that it came across the path of the bath, flew into the wall and turned off completely defeated. As soon as my mother felt security in her eyes, the tears of Knick spoke how scary it was and that she almost died of fright. It looked pretty nice, even if the situation was terrible. The cunning little mother immediately went around the mother and began to make her massage, saying that everything is fine and there is no reason to worry more. Usually the mother calms the child, but this family is special. In our hero, doubts began to creep into our hero that he came here not just like that, but this materialized knife and the strength of which a 5-year-old child clearly could not possess. Last night, the bath was arrested and they say that in prison they had a special reception as they do not like those who attack women and children there. And the next day, the savior of the family rose the temperature and he saw a strange dream, after which he remembered everything. The beautiful messenger of the apocalypse says that once you have moved in time, then I will suspend the end of the world. After 0 years, you will reach the level of creation and can use the heart of your world to replace the spoiled Earth's core and save humanity. Otherwise, I will not stop and destroy all the rotten humanity to give the world a new one can avoid death. Even your parents' earthly appearance claims that he was still crushed by a stone on the ground. But if he can save at least his family, then it is worth it. But he has a little request. He wants a little super hell or help. An awkward silence arose between these two and our beau doubted it. Maybe he asks too much. His head was filled with thoughts. What kind of goddess stared at me? She probably didn't like me, and she changed her mind to stop the end of the world. What if she focuses on me, her strength? I am still a cute innocent, but for the sake of peace, I will do it. In fact, this is not such a big request. In such mangas, the protagonist always has some unusual power. I would not hurt me either. You have to be impudent, because it will help levels. He didn't look at him. He is too weak. So it is not worth hoping much to hope for a start. It will strengthen his astral body, his spiritual elemental, and the meta power will increase several times. Also, the capabilities of his hands will be multiplied, will become more powerful and stronger than that of ordinary people. True. It looks like only the right hand can change. Interestingly, why it is. The guy immediately objected that he was an artist and always draws his right hand. But in his thoughts the idea flew by that it was all because of daily masturbation. But there was no stupidity. Also now he can call on things that he once touched on earth, but only the case in them does not have a soul. And finally, she will seal all her knowledge about the creation of worlds and life energy in the ocean of his. Everything that he will need in the future will be stored. As he improves, the seal will slowly weaken, and gradually all knowledge will open to him. By the way, if you speak frankly, he died of fright and did not understand how it happened. Therefore, and decided to make him a spirit. Nani? I died stupid, he screamed, shocked by incredible truth. Waking up, he immediately realized why his hand was so strong and how he could call the knife of the earth. But such an ridiculous death still disturbed him. Well, sigh. Okay, there is nothing more to grieve about this. We work with what is. The hero thought, after which he uttered the seal. Today weakened, and I realized how I moved in time. And even some of the memories returned. In addition, new knowledge filled the head. 5 years old, then he can already train his mental capabilities are the 3 most important methods for internal improvement. By knowing even one of these truths, you can make the whole continent tremble. His choice fell on the seizure of heaven and earth. Later, he decided to know the doctrine of the destruction of heavenly. About this excited his blood. The feeling seemed like heavenly earthly forces accumulate in his body. An incredible surge of energy enveloped everything inside him, as if his mother hugs before bedtime. Ha has reached the first say that even a genius should be spent at least 6 months in order to achieve this. Because of the strength of the goddess, I will improve too quickly and reach the limit earlier than it should. Such thoughts spun in the head of our beaufriend until an arrogant and a little stupid smile did not leave his face. It's time to try out new. First is the control of objects. A male began to twist with his fingers. A certain blue aura began to spin around him. After hitting a motionless jug with cute pink flowers, he trembled and soon soared the air. After another moment he turned to the right and the water poured out of it, right on the table. Soon knives were already used and now the knife rises from the scabbard, flies forward and crashes into a wooden. A good start. It seems to the rest of the gifts another gift of clairvoyance was added. So he realized that his mother would come to one, and as if by clicking a finger, mother enters the room holding something warm in her hands. As it is good that you are already recovering, and for an early recovery I cooked porridge and filled it with love. Sit down at the table with love in her voice and delicate intonation, Sao Yun said. Say he was already 5 years old, but without accepting this alignment he relied to the last. But in the end, his mother used the forbidden reception of stretching the cheeks and unable to resist the sun. Still, he had to go to school despite the fact that he already had so much knowledge. On the other hand, the school was a good cover of the same. Talented students could not be paid for training, and they also need to give rewards for performance. And on the day of registration, our mother and son stand at the gate and are surprised at such an incredible number of people. If you look from above, then our hero is his mother, only small points against the background of a common crowd. By such a huge number of people, it is easy to understand that the school is incredibly popular and most likely only the elect can study in it. Yes, a poor family of living on the outskirts of this number of people who want to register will really be amazing. Hey look, this good eye bypassing, the hero told his mother and pointed his finger at the entrance. The obviously expensive carriage of a bright yellow color that is a clearly equally expensive riding feathered animal with a creak drove inside, ignoring the queue. Incredibly thick, eating a cake, stupid look. Debo showed his tongue and looked at the crowd directly from the window of his carriage. Debo was clearly overgrown with a leaning to our hero, leaning his finger and said quieter. Bo, do not make noise. This is the son of a local rich man who gave a rather big amount to get here. So try so that they do not hear your ages. Not everyone likes criticism. By depicting disgust, showing the middle finger, our baby realized that this world is no different from its previous one. And here the money also open any doors. Our hero began to mock him, say that everything is really so, even if the poor are hard to try or possess some talents, it still will not advance them in line. They just have to drag them behind everyone. The second only stupidly assented and repeated the words of the first. Now it is clear that Tybalt bespectacles are only part of the guard of the young applicant with an incredibly arrogant face and a huge bag of allegedly money in his hand. Having parted, they made a kind of living corridor for this vessel. Having lifted his head as high as possible and probably taking the most proud expression on his face in the world, he spoke probably the most banal phrase, "Bring me a commoner." Having noticed this in our hero, one idea rose in his head: how to quickly go through the line with the help of this deeds of the landowner. While he was thinking about this, a ringing smile appeared on his face. Raising his hand and grinning viciously, he decided that it was time to try his new equipment, money fountain. A dark blue aura is behind it, is more likely from anger than from magic, but the green aura in the right hand is quite real. The precious stones inside the bag seemed to be furious and began to jump in different directions. A moment later, the bag was torn from pressure and colored chins with a loud ringing flew in different directions. Is it scattered by precious stones, where people began to slowly turn to the sound source. Jewelry. What? The rumor as if in a wave covered the crowd, and everyone already looked at the culprit from the celebration that was scattered with jewelry. While the crowd eagerly ate the rich mouths with his crystals, our hero was not at a loss, grasped his mother by the finger and ran to the entrance while everyone was busy stuffing his pockets, running hand with her beloved son. Thinking about this, warm memories surged on her and she spread in a smile as beautiful as the blue sky on this day. In the end, they reached the line for testing. The outstanding tired, they erased dry foreheads. A pleasant grayish man with an attractive mustache announced that the next testing is Yu Sao-si and asked him to approach him. Your hands on the ball of elementary power. If it does not light up or the radiance is faded, then the test is failed. If it is illuminated, then the law will appoint a blue color and the red system. The brighter the glow, the more power, the examiner said, pointing with his hand to the ball. Yu Sao-si approached the ball that was polished to the extent that he could see his reflection in. Man held out his hand. At that moment he touched. His hurricane of blue energy soared the air, raising all the untouched objects around him. The ball shone in bright blue, and the surrounding people began to exclaim without understanding what was happening. I saw some shit. But such a reaction from the ball, Nickly, the young man exclaimed, and whose veins in his eyes burst in surprise. A TIVE system incredible, such a force and level exceeds the limit. I have never met a person who can so unconsciously use elementary power on a test ball. The same young man shouted a little calm down. From such a pressure of power, the ball could not stand it cracked. Now report to the main one. We have a genius of thought, the examiner said to his young assistant who has not yet moved away from what he saw. Yu Shaoxi boldly stated that he wanted to go to the power system and he was not interested in laws. The elderly man said that after they finished this exam, he would take him to verify the strength, despite the fact that the test showed that he had incredible potential for the legislative system. Come into the room with a thought sign on it. The baby said that he would not tolerate deception from the old man and threatened him with a finger holding his mother's hand. The practice of spiritual forces showed almost the same incredible results that clearly violated the usual order of things and shocked examiners. In the same way as with checking the spiritual forces, kinship with spirits occurred to all expectations. Seeing this, elderly examiner inflamed with enthusiasm and insisted that our hero was obliged to enter his faculty, because for several centuries he had not seen such an outstanding person. Xiao Yun folded her hands at her mouth and smiled sweetly. Because her son is worthy of her father. The last exam remained, the attribution of elementary power. In addition, one respected person wants to meet with you. Back to the examiner said. At the sight of a harsh man in a white-gray cloak on the temples, the crowd buzzed, "Hello, Vice Rector, hello." A man with bags under formidable red eyes said that he wants to conduct an exam for our hero. At the same moment, he disappeared behind only a residual silhouette. Yu Shaoxi did not have time to figure out how the Vice Rector's hand was already on his head and the Vice Rector himself stood behind him, just an incredible speed. Suddenly rare, but very good combination of strength in such a small age, and already a level comparable to hermits, is not bad. You will definitely be able to become an outstanding thinker. Device of the voting in the vote could definitely become the legislative system. Another attempt to persuade him to the side of the legislative system was clearly not to our hero, but clenching his fist, he reassured himself, after which he declared, "But I want to go to the power system like a warrior in battle to defeat enemies. Like Arthur. Do you know who the tank is? Show yourself a finger," calmly said the main character. Ow. A little puzzled, and the arrogant smile appeared on the face of the Vice Rector. "Although I don't know who Arthur or Tank is, but if you want this exam, so I will take." Changing his facial expression, the Vice Rector said. He immediately stamped his foot, and a large blue pentagram formed under the feet of a man and a child, and the alarmed mother that he would simply take her son to the exam. While our hero, without worrying, told his mother that he would definitely be the first and that there was nothing to worry about. Mom, in her kind, encouraging manner, reminded that no matter what place you will take, the main thing to try. Creeps, without hesitation, her beloved son answered. The Vice Rector moved to some hall. Magic crystals shone the place of torches here, and the crowd looked somewhere ahead and screamed. How strong he was! Yes, he will send that light with one blow steep. This is the first site on which they will check the overall level of your forces, said the Vice Rector, looking at the strange scenes on which there were huge spheres. Our hero began to think what this whole trifle is capable of. Although the balls are big, but with his hand, most likely, there will be no problems. The elevator on the right, you will go down yourself, have already been added to the questionnaire. To other Vice Rector continued to say. Thank you, projector, but I will go down, so it's not high here, the young man said, and jumped over the railing. Having landed, he put his hands in his pockets and began to look to the last exam there. There are much more people. Despite the fact that children have no more than 10 years to fight for admission, it seems that in this world a class-free business, he thought. Some guy of about his age, puffing loudly and straining each muscles of his body, tried to raise a strange dark sphere. The next announcer said, after which the young man with two golden hairpins in his hair headed for the same place where the previous one was. I have to prove to this person his strength, he thought, and raised the sphere. Tibcheon is so cool, not relying on the influence of the Toba family. He goes through the exam with everyone. He is beautiful and strong. He is perfect. Chon Ten Chon Chon, the crowd chanted the young man with a hairpin. Yu Shaoxi thought that these youngsters still do not understand who it was necessary to hold on, so when he grows up, he would show everyone that their Chen Ten and a penny of broken was not worth it. Trying to get through the crowd, the scanning name of Tibcheon, he saw a black rope with a bow and decided to grab it on it. The rope was soft and silky, that was a little confused. Ah, the young cat yelled. When our hero, by negligence, grabbed her, what happened? He bulged his eyes right, and everything that he could say was huh. The beauty of the stranger quickly hit him in the head, and with such force that the blood poured through the nose. Thanks for the help. Ouch, confused from. Sorry, he muttered. I hate it. He grabbed my tail. Among the people there are only morons. The black-haired girl with feline ears and large yellow eyes grinded with anger. At that time, while the girl was angry, he was considering the plan of the next actions. He only repeated calmness. The cats have the most sensitive places, ears and tail. And I grabbed the devil so abruptly for him. How so? If I say that she took her tail by the rope, then she will definitely be. She is a girl. I just need to caress her like a little kitten. Elle of dazzling beauty, will your good heart forgive me for such a stupid mistake that he dared to make my hands? I like you, be my girlfriend. Not in a hurry. I will come for an answer in a few days, okay? Such an unexpected revelation strongly dumbfounded the little girl, and her face sharply changed, her evil expression to the embarrassed. Taking advantage of the moment, our hero gave Darrow and went to the exam. Well, look, that person is very strong, the guy shouted next to the main character and then muttered to himself. Ha! A trifle. You are surprised at such trifles. It doesn't matter, it's so strong. Anyway, no one has such a power in his hands as the uncle. Two guys standing at the stage said that the brotherly is very strong. Even together, they could hardly move this stone, and he does it alone. Looking at this, our hero thought about what this guy was raised on. He really is less than 10 years old. Yes, with such a strong on earth, he could have dragged bricks if he had had a salary. Wow, a huge pump, more reminiscent of an adult man with ease. With one hand lifted a giant stone and, smiling, said that it was simpler. This is our named brother Leva, ha ha, both shouted in the crowd, clearly pleased with the results of the performance of their comrade. Ugh, a trifle in the little shower forever. It is immediately clear that you have not matured. At his bored with one glance at you, Sao said with a finger in the nose and clearly unhappy that attention was not drawn to him. Hey, you, the young men exclaimed from the crowd, do not think that if you are far from me, then I don't hear you dare to talk about a big brother like that. Can you leave and try it yourself? The next subject, you Sao Si, said the announcer. A trifle. Why, turn has come carefully. Uncle will show you what it means to be a man. Self-like smile, said Sao Si. While he was climbing the scene with a stone in the crowd, a whisper was a whisper that he had a frail body, he could not move him out of his place, and also that he had come up but could not raise him. Full of confidence, he went to the boulder and grabbed. Head was inclined and the arrogant smirk did not leave his face. Making the most deep breath, he tensed with his whole body and began to drag the stone up. His right hand blushed and covered with on. Let's push, you can, he encouraged you in his thoughts. Using all the available forces, he was so able to tear off the corners from the ground for several centimeters. Till ruddy from the previous conversation and the girl already familiar to us, the girl said to herself that just the body of that eccentric was whispering something and letting the smell to the pain. So, his name is Yu Sao Si. Damn it, he screamed to himself. The difference in the power between his right and left hand is simply huge. I cannot disgrace at such an important point. The right hand does not feel the load at all, but there is no strength in the left. Damn it. Hey, the left hand is too weak. Do not dare to roll on it, he shouted himself, trying to maintain balance. The left hand still does not withstand pressure and the stone falls to the ground with a roar. While our hero, dumbfounded, the voice announces that the ball touch pole ball was raised for a while. This is the lowest result, meaning the lower level. If he announced the next participant. Well, guys already familiar to us immediately exploded with laughter and began to scream mockingly that this fool got so much that the devil himself could not, that he was even weaker than they themselves. Terribly displeased by the situation, Yu Sao muttered under his breath about the fact that he was already several decades and these little ones dare not handle him like that. Having recovered a little from the previous defeat, he went to the next door to the next test. The second test site was a treadmill, obviously not the strongest side of our hero. Looking at the track, he noticed that the leading place in the race was occupied by Dabtan, already familiar to him. Two brothers were already blue, called G, and the fact that Hao was called with brown hair and purple were also going to run for running ant, wishing each other good luck. As soon as they noticed Yu Sao Si, their conversation sharply switched from their great brotherly to discontent and disgust towards the protagonist. Oh my god, how did it happen? What needs to be run here? It looks like my stadium at the university. Yu Sao Si believes that he is higher than two carriages and as an adult and decided not to bicker with them. They are not going to dial. They begin to stop the achieve, begin to make faces, saying be ba ba ba. The sound of small heels walking along the grass was heard somewhere nearby. Turning to the source of the sound of Yusao, he noticed a beautiful black-haired girl in front of which he had recently boasted, admitted love and called for a date. With an air gait, she came closer and said, "Take it seriously. I do not want to laugh at them in the face if they begin to mock. I'm always doing this." Looking at her while she says he thought that it was Lolly, a girl with cat far as he knows. They are called strangers here, but he has not yet met anyone with mixed blood. It seems not so much of them. People said that strangers are the lowest nation. They say she is an intermediate race, the relative KM more precisely. They are descendants of people and orcs. On our hero, this did not care much of him. Still strangers, not strangers. Because a girl with feline ears is very cute. Thinking about this, he thanked her for his support and said that he would try. The examiner announced that the next participants in the competition is Yusao, Jen, Hao and Li Jin. A shot of the banner start of the race sounded. "So I can only do as good to run is not a problem, just such a good attitude." Our boat began. Yusao began to stimulating speed, while the guys laughed behind him that they need to run as much as 50 circles so they would not even try to catch up with him and will run at their pace. Finally, G did the last steps while the sun was already sitting behind. And that was launched. Blessed man, to catch her breath, squeezed out the words of Hao. Leaning her hands about his knees, O sighed heavily G, looking into the distance on our hero. Somehow he is still there. It feels like he will soon have gasoline. And sits down, Hao said, having looked at his gaze their wherean brother. Having finished with their race, they silently stood in the rays of sunset and watched the unfortunate Yusao barely fingering his feet. He chased the same thought in his head: he would not go, it won't go. I can't do it anymore. It seemed even to think it's hard. Mom. God. As soon as I started to run, immediately, not having time to finish it, he grabbed the stomach and filled something sour with his mouth. Feeling a severe headache, he flopped on his back by letting the foam from as much as possible loudly in his state. He asked for help. After a moment, the ambulance team drove him into a hospital bed, pouring a dropper and healing with magic. To Vice Rector through Facepalm, being extremely disappointed with such a spectacle. Nearby, his young girlfriend, repeating the gesture of deep disappointment and shame behind the Vice Rector. The third platform, checking the impact force. I ask those who have not yet participated to go to the site. From the end clearly stated a pretty examiner. Hearing this, our hero began to recover. What? He exclaimed and immediately got up from the bunk. Checking the power of the blow, he understood that this is the only test that he should not miss because the best results code show here. Checking the impact force, Uncle again in business. Having said this, a non-shaped smile spread up. The examiner calls everyone to the third platform to check the impact power. On the playground of the competition, by impact power is an absorbent magic stone, which absorbs physical, explained the presence of a huge black monolith on the examination field of the hands of previous participants, and while all opening his mouths examined him, she continued the explanation. An ordinary person, even if he uses all his strength, can only leave a small imprint. But the most valuable thing in it is that he can independently restore damaged. Absorbent stone is very rare valuable material, which is most often used as valuable building materials. A blush on a woman's face showed that she loves her work. Pointing her finger up, she announced, now the competition will begin. First, the first participant, Lin Si, who responded to this name, was a black-haired cat. Faster to the site. Use all my strength, girl, she shouted to her a little in the distance. The examiner. And I know without you, I will not let him mock me. Mocking me, she thought while she was rising to a huge cubo compared to her. Having focused as much as possible, she shouted "Ki" simultaneously with a cry. She struck a very similar to blows from the films of the world of the was a loud sound, and the cube trembled. It was like a vibration, a local earthquake. As soon as she removed her hand at the scene of the blow, her fist was printed and the cracks from him parted along the wall of the cube. A tigress, and so on. One of the guys even began to make the other to make fun of it. He was finished off her. Now she will definitely kill him. And the other answers that never again will laugh at her. Not bad. The highest level of power brought the glory to our girl. The next participant, Jean, I was expected. His blow was not reflected in Cubo. Rather, he reflected on Hao himself, because his hand made a cracking sound and his face reflected panic and pain. The next member of Li's situation is similar to the situation of his hand was clearly damaged, and he without hiding the pain held her almost crying. The next participant Li, a huge pumped-up child, more like a man, approached Cuba with absolute the way. He also said that it was trifles and that he would show now. The brothers, one of which seriously injured his hand, joyfully waved and supported him, shouting different encouraging words like a group of chewing chemistry. Look, I am collecting all my strength in my set. I take a pose for a blow. And then a stunningly fast and incredibly strong blow was struck by the cube. The sound of the blow was loud to indecent, and the cube itself almost flew off the other way. The dent on it more like damage from the hit from the gun than on the consequences of the blow. This year, a large number of promising applicants came to. The children have not yet started training, but already have physical preparation of the level of apprentice Yuan Lin. Another Yu Shaoxi, a strong soul, having all the possibilities to achieve the level of hermits. In the rays of the sunset sun, his words were even more serious than at the first meeting. As soon as the projector finished, the examiner, in the singing manner, to praise Li for showing the highest level of strength in the test. At this time, our hero mentally pushing himself with all his feet to be eager to be in a test of strength. The next Yu Shaoxi announced the examiner, and at the same moment he burst into the door with shouts "Here, here," which were barely audible because of his shortness of breath. But after a second, he came to his senses and began to speak in such a tone as if he were always waved his hand to meet them. 3 brothers, 2 of which failed the test, silently stared at Shaoxi. Absolutely the same look that it seems to be said, "We are not waiting for anything from you." A sweetly yellow-eyed cat girl and a guy with hairpins looked at him. The deputy dean did not change in the face, maybe only became more severe. But in his thoughts he did not understand why the guy was still not despair. He child who attracted the attention of the vice-rector, known as a fair official, the red-haired examiner thought to herself. After which she said, "Yu Shaoxi, you can go through the absorbent stone." Oh, what a beautiful face. And the figure is just a sight for sore eyes. Hey, he said. The main character has so far advised the examiner with a stupid expression on his face. Anyone who saw him from the side would have thought that it was a pervert. What? Obviously embarrassed by the tint from the child, she tightened a little and blushed. Beautiful orange eyes, tenderly red hair with a scarlet sunset, and a bright blush created a truly beautiful picture on her face. Bluven. Suddenly the Liberty got the courage to pester the sister. "I'll kill you," angrily spoke some child from the crowd. Or thought that this child should realize that he could not get everything he wants, and that the world does not spin around him. Our hero touched the magic stone. I hoped that he would not let him down. Admiring the mineral, he was thinking how much it was a block. Probably there are no several of these on the whole mainland. Hey, show off. Look. Beat not much, otherwise you will cry in pain. Let's get down, someone screamed from the around. Yu Shaoxi. Notice that this is again you two. My God. Just one phrase said about their older brother. Is it necessary to tease me like this every time? He thought. The brothers stood and looked at him from the audience's places. Suggested angrily, grinning to the children, "Let's make a bet. If my result is better than your brother, then you will always call me a grandfather. If my result is lower, I will call you yours." Goes. Terrace is so of the brothers said. "It looks like you can't come to terms with the defeat. Get ready to call me a grandfather." The second only assented, the first to repeat the grandfather in a nasty voice. "Good granddaughter," grandfather said, smiling even more angrily. And before he raised his blushing red hand, clutching her that there is urine in a fist, he tried to concentrate all the power in her. Then he rushed forward with a cry. Like a thunder in the middle of a white day, his blow overtook it to the tremendous force. A shock wave went into the blow from the point of contact. The blow was so strong that the absorbent stone was smashed to smithereens. Once again, showing his arrogant screen, not a friendly smile, he turned to his offenders and said, "Maliavka, tell me the grandfathers faster." 3 brothers stood with sagging jaws, and with their eyes that it seems about to fall out of the orbits. All that was enough and vocabulary, slat and synchronosa. However, the reaction of the crowd was no different from the reaction of this trinity. How can he be so strong? And we are too. Since not a single competition has passed, we can only collect our luggage. Outrageous, I can't come to terms with this. The brothers thought was observing what was happening. Lindsay screamed with a sagging in surprise with her jaw. With surprise she was tense and her eyes began to resemble to round saucers. Having come to her senses and she said, a little embarrassed, the blow of this eccentric passes all sorts of boundaries that his physical training is no good. It is very strange. Hallucination. The examiner asked himself that she barely stood on her feet in surprise. This precious absorption stone at our military magic university is single copy device rector. Shouted completely confusing. The window it was night and the room was lit by a strange lamp, something like the spirit of the main character. Standing here, the most talented applicants were chosen by our military magic school, the deputy dean stated standing at his table. For centuries, the purpose of our school, by testing the forces to choose outstanding of them, can receive support and encouragement from the administration. The vice rector for standing in front of a group of 4 children included the baby Kakakli, Malashka cat girl Lindsay, our main character, and a guy with a hairpin named Tibtion. Now I ask you to say that you see if we can satisfy your spoke obviously differently configured. Children. That Ba Fion is the name of a guy with 6 of the heirs of an elite family, chosen by the win and also took 3rd place in the attribution of elementary power. That Ba Fion, as a member of the elite family, entered his studies, relying only on his intelligence and natural abilities are very good. Tell me, what reward do you need? He said with a too serious expression on his face. Thank you, Vice Rector. I want to have free access to the library, access to viewing a rare book improvement and melting, including secret magic. Folding his arms over his chest with full confidence, Ba Tekken said, Xing books on secret magic is possible only after receiving my personal permission. The young man cannot be in contact with secret magic. Too fast knowledge can be badly reflected in your development. Without taking his eyes with the child, he answered. Obviously pleased with this decision, Ba Qian put his hand on the train and said that he agreed with the conditions of the rector. Whether the age is 6 years old, half-breeding a childhood, I was persecuted by other peoples, and also often subjected to violence and persecution. He loves to assert himself at the expense of his strength, hates the oblique glances looking at, also took 2nd place in the attribution of elementary power. Lin Si, what help or reward do you need from school? The rector asked the same question. I need the right to freely visit the training embarrassment. Malashka expressed her low demands. We can easily satisfy this request. Wait, and I will give you the keys to free entrance to the hall and launch, the deputy dean answered. Li Tenures has a force that goes beyond the norm. The element of power, the fire, is quick temper and irritable, often ridiculed by other people due to the fact that it looks older than its years, as well as the winner in the attribution of elementary power, which took 1st place. Rector, I have only one request. I ask the school to accept my brother, who could not pass the Li loudly and assertively. In his big head, the memories of his brother Zhen Hao did not very much head. And also his 2nd brother Li Ji, leaning the chin's hand. The vice rector thought for a moment. We never accepted the losers. It is not surprising that this child came to the competition only at 10 years old. He calculated in advance that he would take 1st place and then present such a requirement. Lili, we cannot take everyone. This world survives the strongest. You can't patronize them all your life, but since this request is, they can stay here and do dirty work. The only way I can leave, projector said, after short thoughts. In the eyes of Li, tears rolled. Trying to restrain himself, he screamed with joy, course I agree, thank you, rector. And finally, an unplanned participant who took the 1st place of the Yu Shaoxi. The rest of the unplanned participants did not score the right number of points, so we are considering only you. It is not unhappy that his abilities did not at once appreciated our main character, a smelly old man. It was necessary to force a have participated in certification elementary forces. Because of my poor physical training, you think that I cannot develop my naive. The vice rector still could not recover after the scene, as this bastard was defeated by their main magical absorption time. He recalls, his tears themselves are welling into the eyes. I need my mother can live at the university. After admission she should not be left alone. I can't learn calmly if I know that she is at home completely alone. If you cannot satisfy this requirement, then I may not learn, expressed his ultimatical demand by Yu Shaoxi. With such an answer, I probably intimidated that will not allow such a talent as me to leave in any case. If you do not agree, I just will not study here, and that's it. Thinking our hero, waiting for the response of the vice rector. Ing Center. and he knows how to create problems, but he is very brave. For the sake of his mother he dares to talk to me like that. Decides he broke a magic stone, and behaves as if nothing had happened. Knuckle dares so tease me. I did not think that this eccentric could ask for this. He cares about his mother. The girl thought, a little blushing. What do you think? The old man is the work of your university. Perhaps such a genius is found only once every 10,000. Shaoxi continued to crush. Starting from tomorrow, your mothers can live in a dormitory of we will dwell on this. The teacher leads you to your seat. Linger for a moment. I will bring you the keys. Director said. Nevertheless, agreeing with the requirement of the protagonist but clearly dissatisfied with his attitude. The night came. The moon here looks like the main character in the world, except that it shines a little brighter. Something similar to a magic slope sailed, or rather flew high, in the starry sky. How do you like my chicken line? There are very few spirits that can fly. The guy asked with the golden hair of our hero, who was holding on his head firmly and was clearly excited about what was happening. Meanwhile, chasing the red berry with a fork on a plate, the mother of the protagonist had dinner at the university. Apparently local food to her liking. Girl, do not rush like that. I have already ordered the cooks to cook more dishes. Good food looks even tastier against the background of such a beautiful ha. The waiter carefully tried to modify the woman's appetite, but the mother of our hero, probably already eating the 10th pie, was not very worried. Wow, we stingy to death. A colleague suddenly called your mother such an expensive restaurant. Apparently, he found out that he was mortally ill. The white-haired man turned to the main character, looking at the picture that opened in front of them. Without removing meat from your mouth, mother said, son, you have already completed exams. This teacher is a very good person. He brought me here to taste a lot of goodies. Knowing that such kind people will teach you, mom can sleep peacefully. Hi, he obviously pleased with the new position of her son. She smiled, continuing to bite off the leg of chicken. With his flying spirit to the main character was struck by the beauty of a meal of a lady, but so much that he could not hide it. His face was immediately covered with a blush and his eyes betrayed him. I feel that I fell in love. It turns out that there are still beautiful girls on this world. Kid Si, do not be afraid. I will raise you as a dear son. The guy who switched the manner of behavior, putting his rose with his own between the lips, said right there. Disgusting teacher, is a pervert, the Shaoxi shouted, whose face became like a mask of the demon ant. The right hand was already drowned in red. Teacher is a pervert. You are beating in the next life with this cry. He hit that there is urine of his teacher. He immediately flew up with his head. It seems his soul began to leave the body. Mother, I passed the competition. The vice rector allowed us to live together in a hostel for teachers. Tomorrow we are moving. The protagonist, who took his hand, said clearly that he was able to protect her from the dishonest actions of his teacher. But mom wanted to object. But I thought I just asked us to wrap up a little food for dinner. They haven't brought it yet. This is what really worried about her. Hearing the statement of his son and stopping thinking about food, was immediately shocked by what he heard. And, can we live together at the Manhwa school? Faster. I'm late. Our hero shouted to run with all his feet. My name is Yushao. I have been in this world for 5 years. Some time ago, relying on his natural talent, he entered the university and received a special permission from the projector. Now, together with my mother, we moved to the hostel of teachers of the magic school of the Manhwa in this dormitory. Except for me and my mother, teachers and their family, the neighbors in the district take care of us. Sometimes they offer mom a dirty work in order to make a little earn on accommodation, but they pay her well. But of course there are some strange men with dirty intentions. Hi, today I got a showed. Come to clean up. I can't. A chubby green-haired man rubbing his pens to himself. I gently hint them that you need to follow my behavior. I will lose my hands. Much less vulgar manner, said Sha, by sending 2 ill-wishers there where he sent the teacher before. Do not think that he is often late for study, although there is not a single person who understands and knows more than he is in a hurry for part-time. In a past life, his name was Heiyu. He was a professional artist of erotic pictures. He painted countless notebooks and became the adoptive father of the endless hikikomori set. Father, 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 shouted to him from different sides his adherers. Now his main specialty to sell small albums at the university after the end of the lessons, when high school students should finish classes. Having decomposed his goods in front of him, with an entrepreneurial smile, he was waiting for customers. The first victims, two chubby boys alone in the blue in a red robe, walked along the street and spoke loudly. A few days ago, there was one miracle, selling drawings that made me tremble with excitement. She said one, to which the second answered him, I know, too. Talk to him. Z still hurts. Spent half the money on expenses for this month, and then I got to catch up with his relatives. You, Jew. Honorable you, a 5-year-old hero who sold albums a couple of days ago. Again here someone shouted. On the flushed, Dan screamed, a puff in a blue robe. Who, brother? I remember. Most recently you bought a lot of mine. There is a new product. The other day I painted a lot of new collections at home. Xiao said, waving a fan of himself as if he were a dealer of prohibited substances. Really? I'm buying. I buy today. I was just giving out pockets. Let me see faster. I can't draw myself. I immediate. Eli screamed Pooklyish as soon as I learned about new products on sale. Having made a monstrous face, he beckoned to his buyer with a pen. A kid, come here. Uncle will let you see. Art is all you like to draw. Buy more and look. Hey. Look. I improved the structure of the human body. A great textbook for studying anatomy. The main character was clearly cunning, showing the image of the examiner with a latex suit. Ooh. Peace the gods. Venerable you, bless you, very profitable, he sentenced the fat man by taking an increasingly obscene expression on his face and eagerly stared at the picture. You rarely meet a knowledgeable person. I will make you a 5 discount. Brother, smiling slyly and waving his hand, the main character said. He put his hand on his puffy shoulder and began to pull the book in his direction. What's happened? If you want to buy, then buy faster. You will wait a bit, and there will be nothing left in turn. Pooklyish eagerly licking his decision. In any way. The knock of tall heels was approaching our couple. A meaner depicted in the figure was suitable, coming closer and folding hands by the chest. She smiled. Xiaoxi, what are you doing here? Only the lesson ended, and you resorted here with lightning speed. What is in your hands? Show the teacher. Okay. She freely took the book from the hands of our hero. Shocked and dumbfounded by the fact that he was about to be revealed, he started screaming. Wait. But there is nothing to do. Having opened the book, she expectantly saw in her the very obscene image of herself. From what she saw, she instantly covered with taint. It was unlikely that she expected that a 5-year-old child would draw such a clumsy and, even with such an adult woman, having completely lost its connection with the reality. The teacher's head bold red and she, not figuring out, stood staring at the magazine. So that the devils are torn, Xiao exclaimed, fully realizing what happened now. Goodbye, teacher. Next time, I will invite you to tea. Our hero said. A peppy gate stepped away from here. A discouraging scream came behind him. It seemed that the gates of hell themselves divorced from this ferocious crush. The echo of this scream covered all the nearest environs. Haha, the class of class will go crazy now, he told himself, the main character smiling the whole face, because he is glad that such a prank got away with him. Leaving away from the epicenter of scream, he came to the strange gate of the inscription, over which the house of the elderly Mo Wu said. Glancing over his shoulder on this gate, Sha thought the nursing home. Lonely old man, loneliness, emptiness, cold. There are many potential customers inside, so the conclusion, in the head of which he came. After a moment, he returned back with a bag full of tires, ran home for the last vicious silhouette passed through the gate without specifying anything good. Suddenly, an old man appeared in front of him with a huge bald head on his head with bright blue eyes and the same blue crystal on his also new a gray beard and a tired gaze. How did this damn old man appear behind me? He scared his uncle to death. Did not make a drop of sound. He spoke affrighted and the old man studied the magazine open in front of him. This old man is dressed in clothes similar to the rector. She also weighed a precious stone, and not everyone was given a gold. Cannot be that I ran into some great figure of the university. Sha thought to himself, but something distracted him. Laughing laughs in addition. It laughs like that. The kid did not yet understand the reason for the laughter of the old man, although he should have guessed in the face since his experience was great. He immediately met the old man of the pervert. What the? Whose do you get on me if you are not going to buy anything? Our hero shouted as soon as he understood the reason for the laughter of the old man. The eyes were squinted, by the cheeks red, and the saliva flowed down the chin. Perhaps this is the most perverted face that you had ever seen. The smile on the face of this old man becomes everything went to the thoughts of Xiao. Looked at the elderly person with a condescendingly contemptuous look. The old man changed. The eyes were poured with blood, of the eyebrows were eaten to the center from behind the lips. Seemed an evil grin. It seemed that the aura itself was getting dark around him. Hot. And again, angry high-ranking people are such a changeable mood. What should I do if he tells my moth, or everything? The abruptly panicked treasure merchant thought to himself. For a second later, he realized that this is not an anger, but the gaze of a person who is trying to look closer to all the details in the carefully examines. It seems that this time, I can't turn away. Is it possible that he will throw me and my mother from the university? He thought to himself. Then the old man sharply rose a comma and, not only the old man that looked, he said, "Hey Maliavka, where did you get these books from?" Yeah, I drew myself. This is my hobby with disgust. The protagonist answered the main character that clearly noticed the hill between the legs of the elder. In the youth, you need to study well, and not waste your abilities on such things. Official of this university, confiscate your collections. I hope you learn a lesson, and next time you will think about what it is better to spend your time on without a table of doubt. The old man said, "Let's go if next time I catch so simply not to get off." The elder said to look over his shoulder. The official, taking with him the entire collection of special kits. Yes, it was. I very upset, Hero repeated, because his entire business plan had just collapsed. But suddenly he dawned on him, wait for it, somehow logical crap, that old man circled me around his finger. Having realized this, our hero rushed off in pursuit of, shouting, "Hey, it's so easy to believe this, preoccupied, how could I?" The uncle is furious, "Wait, damn old man, you still hide me?" I grab onto my head and tearing my hair, shouted the main character. Meanwhile in me go, "Not hit me, I will give you everything I have." The stunted guy screamed with a licked hairstyle of which was raised by the neck in the air. "Oh, very helpful, and now all the beaten without teeth," and with the finger he spoke of my parents. "Find out, you will not be greeted, but if you know your place and let me go, then I will not tell anyone." The corpses do not know how to speak, our baby said rebirthly. "I need you and your money to so go to hell." Having gritted his teeth, whether he spoke not letting go of the mouths. The same, in turn, already blushed from a lack of oxygen and tried to remove the offender's hand. Our main character, who watched this from the roof, suddenly spoke, "Hey, brother, you are still so young and already angry as hell." The guys, they fought, let off steam. "Man, enough, there is no need to kill anyone here." With a light movement, he jumped off the roof. Lee, still not letting go of the victim, thought, "It means that you are the same self-taught that has received a special place for you." Shao blow was very strong. The silent blow is called touching the earth. Our hero immediately heard, "Small, do not stick your nose, not your business today. This Gip has signed a death sentence." Lee, I remember that you sacrificed yourself for your brother, and now in this nooks you beat people, and the university will find out. You will be excluded. If he dies, then we will talk not only about the exception." The eyebrow came. The Shao said that he clearly understood more than Lee. "Flying here, garbage. I have a new business," Lee said, and finally abandoned his victim. Weather creak with anger. "Did I say I am not a brother to you? You do not understand. Since you found me, then you will also have to destroy you." Ken said, and his hand was ignited by scarlet fire. "Try my power of fire, Yuan," he screamed into the whole throat. It would seem tore around him flame. "I would really like to know if all the big heads are so brainless." With a clearly mocking expression on his face, he spoke. Shah spread his arms to the sides. "If so, then the uncle will also use your beloved violence, and I'll beg you to such an extent that you will sing conquest on your knees," Shao said, while some red matter formed under his feet. The luminous red magic circles appeared under the feet of the protagonist by the quick little lightning, or the discharges of the electricity with a bang flew out from under his feet. "Speed magic forward, wait a big head. Uncle will beat you under the ass until you cry." Saying this, he rushed forward, incredible speed. With a whistle, overcoming the distance, he reserved only a blurry silhouette where he was earlier. "Wants to join melee? Are you sick on your head? Even if you own a virgin to be a target, hand-to-hand combat is not as simple as you imagine despite the stupid appearance." He spoke quite sound things. Having clicked and stepped his eyebrows, he tilted the body and then he swung his head with a burning hand. Having easily read the enemy's blow, he took him movements within my energy sphere. "They do not seem quick, to be akin to the movement of the snail," the main character said proudly. "Hey Buffalo, try your uncle's lightning-based iron fist, you'll like it." While he also pronounced this, red glow reminiscent of the red discharges of the current that recently gathered around his legs started gather around his hand. During the improvement of his own nature and chi, his elementary power became reg and also acquired an intimidating effect. I think any passerby would be frightened by seeing this. Having a hiding air and swinging, he shouted, "Today I use your buffalo head for my experiments." At an incredible speed and cracking sound, a fist has begun to Lee's face. Fast, I can't dodge. Such a thought flashed through Lee's head for a moment when the fist rushed in his direction with a huge speed. What a great power! He's definitely self-taught. Not having time to dodge, he was able to only block the blow of Steep's hands in front. Of blow was so powerful that the bandages on the hands immediately began to break. From the blow, it was like from the blow of a huge boulder threw it to the side. But thanks to the long training, Lee could stay on his feet. Can be so strong. It is trained stronger than me. Protection, speed, strength is getting better than mine already. Completely losing control of himself, Lee shouted, as shocked by an incredible blow to him. I do not believe. From 3 years old, I had been training my strength and hand-to-hand combat skills, and now some kind of jerk is trying to devote me to. I can't believe. Lee continued to deny more and more and more what he had only experienced, because it crossed his entire life path. And now I am stronger, higher and larger than even 20-year-old young people. Speaking about this in his head, the images of training surfaced as under the scorching sun, he lifted huge volumes. I fought with the folk masters, studied them with their success. I can never lose to you. The memories of the fights of the past were briefly carried from his consciousness. If I say, you still will not, electric flash has long sunk into oblivion. I have now used the speed of thunderous elementary is not the speed that you can resist, a violent. In addition, within my energy sphere of your movement slows down. Therefore, I will shake the horses. Lee. If you kill him, you will waste your life. I don't know why you want to kill him, but I know that you are a good person. He screamed, about to make a second attack. Having bounced off the wall, he soared into the air. If you stubbornly hold on to your erroneous opinion, then I will force you to restrain you. The dumbfounded big man stood lost and did not know how to react. Branch, you are younger than me and have no right to talk to me like that. Do not go my affairs. The healthy man shouted loudly, in the air of shout. In addition, do not think that the same trick can work for the second time. I have already found a weak point of this blow. You are in zero gravity, without support under your feet. The main thing is to intercept your blow before you deliver it, and the matter is done. You have a very small experience in fighting, Lee loudly stated, rushing up towards Xiao. Our hero knows what he is going to do, but he has no time left for dot. He hung helplessly in the air. You don't run away, Weather shouted, reducing the distance to strike. Try to, my Solushka self, Lee shouted. Whether he was applying lightning-free fire. With a sonorous sound, a blow that was supposed to turn the course of the battle met with a shield formed from nowhere. Xiao grimaced in the already familiar contented and unfriendly smile, excreting all his 32 teeth in front of the enemy. Surprised, was it unexpected? Our enemy teased our hero, showing his middle finger. How is this possible? This cannot be. Whether the face screamed with anger and misunderstanding. He never heard a magical shield in this world, which could move after a man's body movements. All mentors open a magic shield with the help of hands and at the same time cannot move from the place. Moreover, they cannot use any other abilities. It's just impossible. Removing the enemy's hand towards Xiao again waved. Nothing is impossible. There are a bunch of things that I understand a trifle. You better listen to your uncle and forget about killing someone. Disgusting, this bastard does not play according to the rules after it is obvious that he is a self-taught suicide bomber. Somehow he tried to justify his inevitable defeat. Lee. A sweeping blow came right on the neck of a big. Force of the blow could be estimated by loud cotton and crunch. Calm down, uncle, apply only to tricks, and it hurts you. Flying is humble from such a blow. Whether he immediately lost consciousness. His body flew down with great speed and quickly contacted the ground, forming a small crater at the scene of the blow. Finally, this is a Luke-headed head subsided, he told himself, Xiao, as it were, indicating that the work is finished. I wipe it under the pillar. After a seemingly not very difficult battle for him, he began to complain. They hugged his uncle. This magic shield uses too much elementary power. All this was accompanied by heavy sighs. Having come to his senses a little and, as the joy of victory, he soberly reasoned that the big brother Lee was actually very strong. In the end, you lost your uncle not in vain. After losing the competition, I practiced a lot, Xiao told himself. He looked at his hand that he was red from the strength of the goddess presented to him. In addition, studying the technique of creating the world, I increased my spiritual set, creating a small green glow behind him, and now he was finally able to try them in a real fight with Joe. He covered his face with his hand and small tears performed in the corners of his eyes. Your mother is a talent, wahahaha. I declare this, he shouted in the throat, showing his true nature. He who praised himself. He remembered the boy of which he beat Lee, raising him. He spoke, you look like that of Learo, the eldest son of the head of the clan. Do not dare to die, otherwise you will add problems to this lush-headed how the small ones are fighting. And the uncle must clean. Already about to take the wounded first aid post, he was interrupted by the previously defeated enemy. This immediately launched the thought process in the head of the protagonist, oh devils, even after such a blow, he can still stand on his feet. In addition, it seems he took off from the coils. Whether the face acquired not human features at all from to even think to take him away. He must stay here, the distraught big man shouted. Not far from our couple, the sound of a bell was heard. So far, I was wondering who dared to disturb them. Our hero had already looked under the skirt that had a curl who had a distorted then, and noticed that he was on a pink lingerie. From this species, he was immediately flooded with a blush and blood involuntarily poured out of the nose. The figure of a beautiful girl appeared on the roof in the rays of the evening sun. A light developmental dress only emphasized its elegance. Looking at them, she said, stop this useless massacre. How? I understand perfectly well that you want to kill this vacation of rich parents. I suppose the reason is yesterday. Yesterday, the heir to the clan, then lay armed your brothers, did you? Looking down, the girl asked the big man, until the vile leaves allowed us to see what Xiao saw. When two satisfied brothers yesterday helped to clean the school territory after lessons. Layar, Pen and other majors came to mock them. Disgusting, their genus stinks no better than a dung pit, he said to himself, his teeth more rude from the brothers. Clutching the broom tightly in his hand, which before that he swept the courtyard. Without hesitation, he waved to the main intake of a whistle. The broom cut the air and, after a moment, the heads of arrogant major hurt. He started grabbing his head. A funny bump immediately jumped out on the head of a rich son. He shouted with a finger of his offender, you are a commoner, how dare you beat me, kill him. As a result, they were both greatly beaten, especially who is called Xiao, wounded by bruises. They lay on the floor, recovering. Now he lies in the medical building and is waiting for a huge account for. You want to kill him out of revenge, and secondly, you need money for urgent use. After all, so Lin seriously asked while her face was flooded with the warm rays of the sunset sun. So you mean you saw everything? Why did not help you? So you carefully watch how to cripple my brother? I immediately exploded by the answer. Li, she said, why should I help them when everyone considered me a stranger and teased me? Did someone help me? In this world, if you are not strong enough, you will repent under the heels of other people. Can you protect them for some time? But can you protect them from everything in the world? She asked, obviously without sharing the life path of the healthy man. Then what the hell did you appear here? My affairs have nothing to do with you. Everyone drove out of here. This person will die today. Li continued to shout, absorbed in anger and resentment. Li, I am just not going to decide your business. I'm here for him. She looked at the protagonist. Here he is, the culprit of the celebration, the mysterious student of Xiao. And what are you looking for me? What did you want? He answered. Indicates himself with his fingers and does not understand what is happening. Why did you deceive me? Obviously, your name is not Van Xiaoman. Obviously, hesitated and reddened. She said to our hero, recalling how at the first meeting he deceived her, introducing himself with another person. Unable to tolerate such an attitude, shouted, bastards, drive to flirt away from here. Let me incinerate this discharge. I haven't agreed money, and go save your brother. Otherwise he will not survive today, she said, a cat jumping down. Leave me alone. Lee struck by a blow with his main hand. Dig-headed. Do you have any problems with the brain? You see a person and hit right away. She spoke so far, easily took his blow from herself. She stuck out her claws. She prepared for the attack. A wave of a hand and, tossing the claws on her cheek. Her hand was the hell is some kind of wandering cat dare to dissolve his claws. You finished off, Lee shouting to the girl's hand. Here's the bad luck, the main character shouted, bursting between the patient of which he needs to be delivered to the first aid post and brewing. With a new fight. Brotherly hold you here, he said, throwing the wounded man to the ground and headed towards the battle. Either he has a rotation for the major or a great love for the girl. Throwing the patient to the ground, he kicked him for alternating speed. Sister, I'm going, he shouted while the unconscious face of Major met with asphalt. Having made a lightning-otic jerk, he rushed towards a fighting couple. "Get in hell," he screamed in the whole throat, whether he grabbed the girl by the face of his face and, at a great speed, rushed to the wall. "Hands off," he screamed at the last moment, striking the offender's hand. Immediately he held out his hands to catch the falling Lin, or "I am worried about it," or just a desire to touch it without burdening circumstances. "Dear, are you okay?" he said, in the most natural tone for himself. Our hero trying to build a cool match, as in the films of a romance of which he watched in his homeland. In turn, Lin was extremely shocked by the strength and coolness of Xiao. "Stopped everything," the red-haired teacher shouted in her cold and severe tone, creating a magic circle with a blue glow near her left hand. At that very moment, magical wagons enveloped the infuriated weather, not allowing him to move. In the same way, they enveloped our hero. Though the type of binding was more reminiscent of something connected, was also connected from the hands of the protagonist Lin. After some time, they were already standing in the office of the vice-rector. "Ring me to white heat. Just arrived. And already arrange an illegal fight. Do you want to be kicked out of the university?" He spoke in an increased tone with a terrible and gloomy expression on his face. All three culprits of the meeting stood related to dissatisfied minds, but our figured teacher controlled all of them. He beat people and remained unpunished. It is worth a 3 commoner to arrange a brawl. "So you are here, but you go to the misconduct of this and you close your eyes, right? Shouldn't it be excluded?" Natially but rightly asked Xiao from the director, pointing to obvious injustice. "And I look. The University of the Manhwa has an undeserved reputation for a coma if it obeys the influence of such garbage." He spoke without hesitation and showing the middle finger to the vice-rector. "What are you carrying at?" the Vane shouted. The vice seemed to be about to explode. "You forever respect your parents. I will not tolerate your insults to the academy with pressure." The vice-rector of which was already glowed green, and it seemed he was beginning to use some kind of magic to intimidate the little one. "You find out mental pressure. You need a lot of mind to attack a 5-year-old." In response, Xiao rushing the miserable bonds that they tried to chop it out aggressively. "All my life I hated people like you. Jopolis, well done against sheep." And against the young man himself he shouted in earnestly angry. "What kind of Xiaoxi's back is this? Did he really resist my mental pressure?" They shouted in response to him. "Small wretch, you cannot take such words back," the vice-rector shouted with rage. All participants in the meeting immediately pressed into the heavy. "It feels like a mountain fell on me with a grinding teeth from pressure." Lin spoke. "What kind of power? What power?" I thought to myself, a healthy man trying to resist the pressure. The teacher moaned excitingly, all the charms of which were pressed to the ground. "Then me. We are all equal. Let's add fire and I will not give in to you." He fought off the words of the old man Xiao, continuing to show the middle finger and standing on his feet despite such pressure. The vice-rector closed and began to come to his senses, because as the eldest he did not fit so violently to the words of the child. "You do not understand. The struggle for power at the university among government students is not so, is a word that weaklings deceive." Vice-rector began to explain coldly. An announcement of punishment was released. 3 people, Lin Si, Li Li and Yu Xiaoxi, due to their own fight, were punished by the university and enclosed in the empty shower tower for 30 days. The administrative building of the Mo Magic University of the Mo, who was flooded with daylight. The architecture struck anyone looking at it. Director, Brother Li Li, woke up yesterday. A young teacher was notified by the elderly projector, watching how he stands on the terrace and looks into the distance. "Well, the university administration is still investigating this matter. Are they going to hang all the responsibility for beating Laerali?" Director asked, the bags under the eyes of which clearly increased in the last days. One of his relatives in management tried to achieve the exclusion of Li Li, but the head of the university prevented. Obviously annoyed teacher answer. This time, the deputy dean pulled Lin Si and Yu Xiaoxi. Precisely thanks to him they got off with a punishment. He pressed the council of the fact that they are the best students, and the university cannot allow them to be said, a little frowning. "Well, in this case, Li Li can continue. They need to be more diligent and hold out until the end of the punishment." Director spoke to himself, looking thoughtfully somewhere into the distance. "The turret of empty souls is far from the most pleasant place on earth. This place contains many ferocious elementary spirits and demons. This is the prison in which they are locked. Just think about this." The eyebrows of the rector drove to the center and the eyes raged. I am worried about students of the last year of study will not take out such a long stay in the Tower of Empty. A hand on her chest was worried about the teacher. I'm afraid these three will not stand the test, she repeated with anxiously looking at the ceiling. In this troubled time, contention was answered by the vice-rector against her gaze from behind the shoulder. Strength is a remedy that will help them to survive. Set. He clenched his hand into a fist. In any case, I believe in them, especially in this bastard. You shall encourage her. A lot of abilities that we still do not know. Sub in thought. The vice-rector leaned his hand against the chin. The excellent power of the soul, he thought, recalling how he touched Xiao on a test with a ball. Huge his head. A memory surfaced as one blow of Xiao destroyed the absorption that nobody succeeded like that. And also a strange energy that manifested itself in thought, remembering the threatening red aura, which arose behind the child in their recent dispute, that I received suddenly turned out to be something interesting from time immemorial. He spread only among the strongest and was never announced for the common people. Many criminals are collected here. He spoke holding an old scroll in his hand. The mother of Yu Shaoxi seems to be such a weakle. It is difficult to imagine that she, in this secret black market, is ready to pay a reward of 10 billion yuan stones for its capture. They use this list to announce the amount for the most important among all those 10 billion yuan. Is it too much? He spoke. Looked in the parchment on which the mother of the protagonist was depicted. I announced the amount of 10 billion yuan stones. We cannot close our eyes to this despite the fact that he constantly tears me. It is clear that his heart is filled with kindness. In the future, he will certainly be able to enrich the whole world. Old man thought. Looked at the clear sky. Without thinking twice, he decided to get rid of the scroll in place and burned it. Do not tell anyone about this secret list. The administration. I have to discuss the necessary measures with the head of the said to a woman who apparently completely trusted. Okay, I understand you, Rector, she answered seriously, justifying the trust entrusted to. You can go. I need to think about the events that have happened lately. He told her to lead her out of the room. Oh, for sure. I forgot to tell you if you are worried about students, so tell me why. Look at them with a gloomy ha-ha, smiling sweetly, she said to the gloomy old man, trying to melt his heart. Come on. I have business. Coughed. He was trying to hide the embarrassment, but the reddened cheeks immediately gave out the center in him. Meanwhile, completely different events took place in the empty shower tower. A weather when a giant lizard-like creature screamed at all his teeth and claws in his back. Die, son of a bitch, he shouted to repulse his fire blow right on the face of a green lizard. I can't hold out for a long time, Lin shouted, and knocking her feet with the same amphibians. That's bad, she shouted, noticing long sharp claws approaching her eyes. Sister, are you alright? Xiao attacked the attacker with an amazing attack, which forced the lizard to glow as if from a lightning attack was called an electric blow. Shaoxi, thanks. Immediately hesitated she answered, until the paint of embarrassment spread over her face. In the end, if this is the end, he killed some, and at the same moment others appear. How tired I am, he said with his comrades at the strange purple gates, standing at the ominous door, trying to catch your breath from an endless fight, the scale of which can be understood by the bodies of the lizards surrounding them. Not having time to take a breath, the new group immediately surrounded them in the ring by reducing the chances of victory to many monsters. If they do not kill us, then we will die from fatigue. In addition, it seems the sister has a panic thought. He looked at his companion, obviously fell into panic and despair. Lin spun only one thought in my head: we will all die. Even the club headed to death is. Yes, they are just evaluating the situation around. Li stood in complete confusion. Nausea and fear prevented him from moving. At such a time, I cannot restrain ourselves, otherwise the flowers of the future world will plow here, he said, having finished with an assessment of their situation. I call, he exclaimed, and at the same time a levitating bunch of metal buttons from his world formed over his hand. I will scatter to the ground, let your herd. Damn devils, he spoke, scattering the buttons around him. The buttons will help Uncle win the time, he thought. Meanwhile, the buttons shown were ready to prick anyone stepped on them. Li's sister, don't be afraid. Listen to me, and you can survive these 30 days, he told the girl, trying to cheer her up. But in fact other thoughts were spinning in her head. This Yu Shaoxi. Why does he cause me a sense of security? It seems that he is much wiser and a meeting of us all, although we are the same age. And what is this draft magic? Do you have a secret weapon or small caliber sharp weapons with you? The buttons that have just scattered are too small, they can only detain them for a short while. He asked his companions in the hope of finding at least some help. Meanwhile, the first monster fell into a prepared trap. Having stepped on the buttons, he screamed in pain that the tears began to flow from the monster's eyes. "Eat before we were locked here." I grabbed a small handbag, Darius said, stretching her hand down to her leg. Handbag, the stolen on her left leg. She continued, "The poisonous dagger that my mother gave me, she made it specifically for me so that I could defend myself from perverts and strange men. Will it help? Okay, it's good that the last time he was not there. She would definitely kill me," our hero thought. I recall his first acquaintance with Lin, when he accidentally pulled her by the tail, and the crowd thought that this was a rope. "Bitch children, they came again," he shouted, noticing the presence of enemies nearby. "I have an idea," she told her, holding out her hand while he beat the lizards in another. Flocks in her handbag from her leg. She threw her towards Shao. "Catch it," she shouted, dodging the attack of the insidious lizard. Like this, he caught her with a deft movement of his hand. A rather cute relative handbag, with a cat on it, and the lin that preserved a little warmth was in his hands. "But if you want to go out and see your brother, you will have to follow my plan," with a dissatisfied expression on his face. He told the man because of which they all were in such a difficult situation. "We will not be able to survive if we constantly fight," he added, sending the next enemy to a disconnection, using his right reinforced hand. "TC, do I have a choice? Everything will be as you say," he answered the big man, at the same time beating the lizard on the right and trying to remove the lizard from his leg on the left. His left, starting to conjure some spell. He said, "Stand behind me, I will create a protective sphere and explain the plan to you. Faster, I can't hold it for a long time, every minute on the account." Finally answered immediately and rushed towards the protagonist. Lin also arrived, with a deft movement, increasing the distance with the enemy. As soon as two partners were behind a strange cloud of energy, his left hand took the form of a magic circle, illuminating the clothes of nearby with a red glow. "Activation of the shield," he shouted, and a magic circle from his hand sank to the ground, after which the scarlet dome of enemies' attacks was formed above them. "Put a long speech in a couple of words. Listen carefully. I have a way to eliminate this trouble, though we must act together," he quickly spoke the companion while supporting the barrier with his left hand. "Understood." "Yeah," they answered in unison and occupied combat positions. Supporting the barrier, Sha put his hand in the bag with the words, "Wait. For starters, I will get a poisonous dagger." He began to rummage in her. "The dagger is not there. Do not open," Lin shouted in full voice, whose face blushed instantly from the eyes ran from side to side. "Oh my god," he screamed, the main character, taking out of her purse small female panties painted in a blue and blue strip in the center of which a cute pink drawer of a cat flaunted. From what was seen and felt, blood poured simultaneously from all the holes that were on the head of Shao. "Thanks for the treat, oh, that is, I meant, sorry," muttered this unrelated nonsense, while the paint on his face crawled. Blood is about to form a puddle underfoot, fully suppressed by such an unsuccessful combination of circumstances. Lin, filled with red, neatly noticed that the poisonous dagger was in the next compartment. Mistake, do not pay attention," and our hero repeated, hastily wiping blood from under the nose. "And he still needs daggers in the next compartment. This time, everything is true. I was afraid that I would get something criminal," joyfully stated in, showing all three poisonous dagger that he could find. "Great, now listen to my plan." "What? No, this will not work. This is below my dignity." Whether he reacted violently with his ordinary evil manner, is more important to you, dignity, or the Twilight brother who needs your help from the outside? The adult man in the body of a 5-year-old boy began to torment the child with provocative questions. Unable to stand the pressure, the big man collapsed to his knees and shouted, "Okay, I will do," he spoke, unable to betray his brother. Despite everything, they were still in an extremely disadvantageous situation. "So everyone is ready. Let's begin," Xiao said with complete confidence, and his blades were distributed between the participants of the three, and to Sha and one line. "Yeah." A partner answered him, who finally could pull herself together. "Disgusting. Is it really necessary to be a charger?" Whether the protagonist was indignant that the main character, all his cheeks were covered with blush. Mergersley put his hands on the back of stood red with embarrassment, and their eyes ran in different directions. "Your mother, do you think I like your hands?" So in the hasket, he screamed in response to the nitpicking. All he himself was clearly not glad that he was in this position. "Was another way to absorb your strength to maintain the shield. I would never allow you to touch my back. Moron," he continued the stream of insults by Shao, showing the middle finger to the healthy man. While they argued, the monsters continued a group attack on the shield. Lin somehow tried to fight back a blade because, unlike enemies, she could go beyond the account. But this was not enough and the shield gave a crack. She is fighting and trying to save their lives. Two fools argue with each other. She said, "You are your true mother. Stop flogging at this time." Her face darkened and her eyes began to glow like a demon. "We obey the lady," both screamed, in unison, hugging, because just the chances of dying of Lin became much higher than a chance to die from the lizard. "Lift, brother, okay? The brother does not know. With my back to the back, get my motor." Spoke to each other with the most stretched smiles in the world. But these words will help to calm the girl brutalized as a cat. Had opened in front of her. Lin smiled at the top of her mouth and it seemed to shine with happiness. "So, continue." In the same spirit of ha ha ha, she spoke, trying to hide a genuine smile with her hand. Well, the situation was a little are no longer so frightened as they were at the beginning. "Excellent," he said, the main character to himself, to expose this as a pre-thought-out plan of action. It seemed as if another person got into him, after which he added spiritual control. After these words of the Chura, the daggers with his right hand inflamed the air while he showed with his left hand. The green aura began to diverge from him in all directions. The daggers whistled with a whistle, looking for goals for defeat. Previously, he could hardly control only 3 objects, but now it is easy for him. Therefore, thanks to his honed skills, a picture of an elegant steaming blades around the barrier that cut all enemies that were caught in the path was opened before the Trinity. Monsters could only publish nasty cries, while the daggers methodically cut them out one after another. Soon, the blade accelerated even harder, began to rotate around the barrier like a meat grinder, slowly sucking and grinding all enemies like minced meat. "Return, little monsters, uncle will send you straight to paradise." Ha ha, distraught with thirst for blood, and shouted loudly. His hand glowed ray, and in his eyes burst the veins. Standing behind Li Pale, seeing the power of the hero and hearing his evil scream. "It seems you seem to be a monster." In unison, his companions shouted, shocked by the power that our hero possessed. The muzzle of one of the lizards broke the barrier and began to grimace on fresh meat. Baby Si on the other side pierced the hole already. Nakam Vos. Our hero cast a glance over his shoulder on a not yet occupied partner. "To me, despite the fact that my dagger is not enough, it will not be difficult for me to overcome a couple of monsters," she said with confidence and stronger, and squeezed her weapon, preparing for battle. With one accurate and fast jerk, she reduced the distance with the monster and posted it from the first blow. All that the monster remained was only to scream in pain. "Oh, defend us forever. I have to clear the world of these bit children. I'm not going to substitute my ass. So let's turn around." Our hero continued his sick speech. "Do not pay attention to those present." Lee, standing behind Lee Moran, more filed from what was happening and shouted, "Monster usually laughs, but now he looks frightening." A realized situation in which the monsters turned out to be a pile and began to hug each other and tremble with fear, with a pitifully looking at Xiao in the hope that he would not kill them. But this did not have any effect, and he began to methodically cut all the monster in his path, without letting a single one and preventing anyone from escaping from the paws of death. On the floor with a crooked smile and eyes rolled with relaxation at the same time, and the dry from visual battle, Lin said, "How tired I am. Where are the monsters? Some seem to have run away somewhere. We leave the Tower of Empty Souls. I will never agree to be your charger again." Whether he spoke in the pose of the lotus, the difference was only that now was more like a healthy man but a bean-pawed. "Li, the monsters are killed. Now your time has come. Only you can do it." Lin spoke as if she had not died before that. "I have to do. Until today, I hadn't talked about me. The legends were composed." He spoke hand dryly, showing everyone his newly acquired bald head. The hair was most likely from stress. At the last gasp, he was able to use fiery magic on his hand. Arson, burn the element of fire, and the cut of the added the meat of the recently murdered enemy to the fire. Its mission was to provide tasty, let it be not very healthy food, and your partners for these 30 all. Only he could cook it because he possessed a magic of fire. Soon, all 3 filled up their stomachs to the dump and sat down to take a breath. Such an amount of delicious food clearly corrected everyone for the better, except for weather that still has not recovered to the end. But unexpectedly in the distance, the strange sounds felt. Something in the distance came to our heroes, shaking them after the meal. Meanwhile, the outside was a beautiful night. The sky was covered with a blanket of stars illuminating the street. "Fu is most likely," woman said, heading for the gate with the inscription "House of the Elderly Mo Wu." This place is already known to us, because one day, all sold his erotic catalogs here and ran into a strange old man pervert. There was a knock on the door of a woman, who went to this quarter late at night was the mother of the late, who came to look for me. The same old man, opening the door to a cute lady. Chuan, is it I? What are you doing? She spoke with a smile as if she had known him for many. You came, man said. The tears rolled up the corners of his eyes and a blush appeared on his cheeks. But for the first time, he was caused not by lust, but by the joy of meeting with a man after a long separation. After these words, he collapsed on one knee in order to express his respect for the person in front of him. He was absolutely not worried that dear Anne the mantle with a gold edging could get dirty. His head. He spoke, I could not take care of you and your son. I didn't even protect the bastard from this. La Wana in the end. A worthless old man who deserves death, he stated without raising his head. Do not say so. For many years you are already looking for you on the whole continent precisely because of we need to apologize to you. Otherwise you would not have to hide in this nursing home. A white-haired woman with beautiful red eyes spoke worriedly and obviously did not like the behavior of an elderly man. Or 5 years now, they want to find you by resorting to a variety of robbers from the black market. So you were listed on a secret list. Grandfather spoke clearly dissatisfied with such a state of affairs. Can this negatively affect the reputation of the academy? She spoke first of all, worried about the rest. Never mind the head of the university, when he was young, owed my life to me. Now came his time to repay the debt. Think about this. The old man remembered himself in his youth, and how risking his life reflected his mortally attack intended for the current head of the university. Dear Juan, have you regretted over the years at least once that you have followed me? I don't want to draw you all this. She continued to squeeze out the word behind the word. Ram, the moment you asked me for help 100 years ago. And I am Augustin Jan Juanakama for you to sacrifice your life. The old man, from whom he believed with devotion and pride, spoke with confidence. Although not so long ago I inspired completely different feelings. You first go and then talk. I know the purpose of your visit today, so I have prepared everything in advance. Go through. The old man repeated, I invite a young mother inside. Entering the house, she sat down on the bed and a small spirit similar to a mushroom and a small orange glow sat down. On her knees began to absorb. I don't even know how Shasi is said. But the historian and I were now clearly occupied not by her words, but with black envy in relation to the mushroom of which the girl held in her arms so tenderly. This time, the vice-rector crossed all the boundaries. The Tower of Lost Souls is not a place where a 5-year-old child can survive. I contacted my combat comrades. They are ready to help me attack the tower and release Shah. Spoke. The old man offers his help to save youths from such a difficult situation. One of them is called an Iceman, he said. And someone in long black shoes with bright blue fiery went inside. And the second with a golden set, and a man of brown boots, with a metal frame on the toe went inside the first. Rest on us, we will free your son. In unison, 2 old people in blue and red mantles declared. In appearance they were 100 years old, and it looks like they were the same Iceman and a golden lion. In addition, a child who knows how to draw such good drawings cannot be a bad, cannot lose such talents so soon, they said, showing their true motivation to help the child. Also, they did not show their purchased copies of the erotic catalog, not at all embarrassed by the presence of the author's mother in the room. The blue moon brightly illuminated the sky and the earth under it. It was so bright that it seemed even unrealistic. A beautiful rocky night look opened in front of our travelers, one of them exclaimed. But the Tower of Lost Souls, at a step snow, and your legendary snake on the road, is simply indispensable. The fiery lion said to the icy man while rushing with everyone on the head of a giant ice snake, the speed of which exceeded all expectations. Most likely this was caused by the fact that on the way he froze the whole earth under him, thus accelerating himself. A little snake. Thank you and tell you in a voice, said a young woman, who was neatly sitting on my an appeal of. Even an ancient magic beast made it blush a little with embarrassment. It arrived, but it seems our maneuver was disclosed. There were many people already known among them, such as a red-haired teacher and a green-haired actor, as well as a blonde womanizer and the dark that was previously an assistant to the examiner. The counterweight in the team of the saviors of our hero was 3 old men and 1 woman, as well as an ice stared straight at a living obstacle that arose in front. The ice snake was also extremely unhappy with a sharp stop. Therefore, she fiercely checked on a group of people in front of her, violently exhaled ice puffs of smoke. And our boyfriend waves so well, yes, and has the arrogance of blocking the path to such multiply old men. The Iceman and the Fiery Lion said, despite their respectable age, they looked like experienced and strong warriors. And Feng, forgot how in childhood we gave you according to Z, when you did not obey. What do you say about this? About the rector? They spoke with a finger at the most high-ranking man from the crowd. Hen Feng did not even think to forget about it, however. And Vash, today's raid on the Tower of Empty Souls does not comply with the rules of the university. Chen Fen, will not turn a blind eye to this. The vice-rector was trying not to rude to his former teachers, which was given to him with great difficulty. Gave according to Z, by G, such exclamations immediately dispersed through the crowd of teachers who ate restrained their laughter after what they heard from these elderly people. Gave according to Z, our gloomy project was given according to Z, she spoke barely restraining tears of the red teacher. Closing her mouth with her hand so as not to accidentally give out the bag. The projector flushed with embarrassment threw an evil look in the direction of the whispering teachers. A comma in his eyes of red eyes seen painted pentagrams. One of the elders dismounted from the snake. Friends, stop scratching your tongues, it's time to start the surgery, the elderly man said to roll up his sleeves and letting the sun bunnies in the eyes of others with his bald head. Meanwhile, a giant lizard attacks the tower of our heroes. Forehead bizarre black mark right in the middle of large red horns. His body, in principle, is covered with spikes and apparently he is very angry from the massacre that these three recently arranged. This could not pick up to finish the proposal. Whether he simply stare at the absolutely lost look at this monster. What kind of X? Our hero shouted, whose eye is not what they get out of the orbits. But it seems that they are about to break through the monster itself. Lim, in turn, noticing the monster simply nervous giggling, trying to realize what was happening. There was a deafening monster with incredible sizes that each of the group members was a maximum of a claw on his giant hand. Lily. Lindsay, rather, stand under my shield, get ready for the attack, he screamed, the main character quickly realizing that there is no pressure time to act quickly otherwise they will die. His shield can withstand, said Cha supports the shield. At that time he had already become behind and began to bury our hero of energy. Thank God before the battle, they managed to eat and rest a little. Without thinking twice, the monster froze with his huge hand and delivered a crushing blow to the shield by destroying him from one blow. Seeing this, our hero immediately realized that his shields here were useless to win another way. As soon as the shield was destroyed by all three immediately jumped out of it in different directions in order to prevent the bridge to slam all three at the same time. Do not look at me, there is a brother there to the right of you, I saw what? Not that I am leather and bones, the Shao monster screamed, who clearly showed the most interest in him. Crap, this animal laid the eye on me. Is this a crime to be beautiful? The hero of which was about to overtake the giant claws of the monster. Annoyance, it seems to have to resort to extreme measures. Removing a strap with a bell with her neck, she said removed the seal transformations into a half-point. It turns out that it was not just a jewelry, but a magical seal. In the regime of madness, the blood that she inherited from the orcs boils, and her body develops rapidly, therefore. Her costume was specially designed with the ability to stretch. Only she has no more than 20 seconds to use this force. I do not want to look at how people who treat me are dying before my set in a changed body has matured by acquiring a more feminine form. Hands and legs overgrown with wool and the right eye changed beyond pupil, became red and the protein turned black. I created a shield around me to stop the claws of the eye. Have not yet reached the level of creation, but I have to die here. So, what does it mean to leave the world in the prime of strength? Uncle, only 5 years, he shouted from the defense directly into the face of the monster. But, even with madness, I don't think that I can kill this monster in 20, least you have to save Shaoxi, she said, crouching to create more amplitude in the legs for the jump. The pink horror resembling puffs of smoke formed behind, not waste time. She immediately rushed right towards the shield created by our hero. The claw of destruction shouted, she struck with her claws right on the hand of monsters. The power of the blow was so great that the monster formed 3 giant cuts on the hand of the monster, from which was torn in an instant. The monster, clearly not expecting such a strong rebuff, grabbed his hand and roared that there was urine from pain. It happened. I am in heaven. Our hero asked himself, whose face was clamped about between the 2 soft rounds of his very young girlfriend. I enjoy his position. He blushed all over and blood involuntarily flowed with a stream from his nose. So this is the madness of the orcs, but it will not be able to last a long time, so you better hide while I distract this big frog. Whether he said a saved comrade, but the thoughts were busy completely different, disgusting. What am I doing? A sudden sacrifice for yourself for these to funny. Rather, tie the bell to my neck, Lin said, which clearly does not experience positive emotions from being in this form. Now with a serious face, our hero answered her, approaching her strap with a bell in his hand. Meanwhile, against the background, he distracted the enemy, screaming at, "Your mother, come here, G-Dog." Delicate and carefully so, perhaps he slowly handed the bell of his neck to his girlfriend and fastened him from behind. "I need to relax a bit and restore strength, otherwise I rely on you," said, all blushing. There is a suspicion that she blushes not because of fatigue, but because of such proximity to Xiao. "Oh my god, there is, this claw will hook me. Then it breaks all the bones," to scream, using all his strength in his legs to avoid lethal blow to him. The monster decided to take advantage of the reception that I had not yet used before. A huge tongue at incredible speed flew out of his mouth and headed right in the direction of Li. "Damn it, it's not fair, this language can also stretch," he screamed in response to the actions of his enemy. "He drives me into a corner, I have nowhere to hide," he shouted, dodging, because never now the next blow of the snake tongue headed right in his direction. "This language is huge, what should I do?" he screamed, barely dodging the attack of a jump. "Monsters here, look at my luxurious radio-controlled machine." There was a voice from somewhere from afar, which the monster immediately looked at the stimulus. I propose. The monster turned out to be a small pink SUV machine on the radio control. Its headlight shone and one made a gaze sound. Having lost interest in his previous victim, the monster, absorbed in a new stimulus, rushed at him with all his might while the machine turned around and drove away from the monster. Not run back and forth. Such frogs, such creatures do not see well and react only to moving objects. "He cannot attack us if we are motionless," he shouted to his comrade Xiao while driving a small vehicle. "What kind of moving box?" With distrust and misunderstanding, he told him, who could well be understood to drink Xiao, younger than him for 5 years, and he simply had nowhere to find out such information. "Of course, it's true, this is my favorite creature that the teacher told me about." The head of the protagonist immediately filled the memories of which the blood flowed, and the look was fogging. "Xiao Yu, I will stay today after class. The teacher will hold a personal advice for you." A woman spoke with a large breast, with a short skirt, and very frankly leaning over the table of our hero in his distant childhood during his life on Earth. Judging by the toad on the notebook, it was a biology lesson. The frogs have a pair of bulging eyes, very sensitive movements, but it is only worth the object to freeze and there will be nothing in their eyes. As if completely blinded, he received this knowledge thanks to his beautiful teacher, who simply served the material very well, and nothing more. Meanwhile, the giant toad caught up with the car and gently grabbing it in her mouth. "Do not move. Do not move. Do not move." Whether he repeated to himself behind the column very close to the giant monster, capable of killing him in one movement. Having swallowed the machine, the violet beast began to look around in search of its previous victims. Without noticing anyone, the monster simply decided to demolish the random column in this way to get around the enemy by accident, or thereby frightening it by provoking the movement. "Do not move. There are no movements. Be patient," he continued to repeat himself, which the heart went into the heels. You can only envy his courage at that moment. After the next blow, the monster continued to inspect, trying to catch the slightest movement with his eyes. "Because you will not be full with a small plastic machine, you need meat. You shall see. Acquaintance with you is the most unsuccessful event in my life," did he say to himself. His body slid to the floor and, under his feet, a medium-sized puddle of warm liquid formed that he allocated, frightened by the close end of his life. Suddenly a translucent grandfather appeared. "Jan Joven, I will show him my secret technique," the grandfather shouted, forming a bright magic circle of red. Huge powerful green tornado crashed into a golden shiny, at the word tightly, the wall of the old man. Grandfather shouted at his bald head. Huge power, my body seemed to be nailed to the ground. "I cannot move," he screamed, feeling the power of an elderly trio. Brothers, it was as if we were returning at the time when there were wars everywhere. The bald, elderly man in the center shouted. All three, they radiated the incredible energy of strong warriors who had not passed through 100 battles. "Do not be afraid to attack in full force. All continent raised the resistance level by 12 points, otherwise They will give all your attacks, the vice-rector shouted, offering a lot of effort to resist the legs under the pressure of these three. Follow my energy and show what you are capable of you with this sign. He screamed that there is urine to raise the fighting spirit of teachers who will have a difficult fight against living legends. Fine, they answered in chorus and carefully began to observe the projector. I repeat, every movement of it. Two incredible forces collided in the center. It seemed as if the air melts and the space was the power of two groups that opposed each other today. Xiao Bin, you may not participate in the battle. Stay and take care of the Iceman said. I did not think that they could withstand our strength. The bold, the fiery lion just sighed heavily looking at the company of teachers. Old age is not a joke. We apply so much strength to defeat these mollusks, he shouted, dumping his mantle and rolling his sleeves before the fight. The older generation is always unhappy with the teacher with purple hair was checked back said. At the same moment, he made a jerk and broke away from the ground at a huge speed. Violet languages of fire, transformation, he shouted, and immediately transformed. His huge purple eyebrows grew up and his eyes completely took purple paint. At the end of the transformation, he became a large purple bird, embraced by violet languages of flame, and rushed straight to the enemy. I have not practiced for a long time. Even the muscles were forward, the fiery lion said, while the bird flew around him from behind to strike from the back. It is rare when you manage to go out for a walk, but when the kids frolic nearby, you feel young again, he added, even without turning to a huge purple thread approaching from behind. He clenched his fist and he seemed cold and incredibly firm. Isn't it like a dairy? He shouted into the face of a caught bird and threatening it quickly with reprisal. Most likely one blow. Did the teachers not teach you that the soldiers are fighting to face? He continued to receive his enemy. In a rough, the strongest can afford this. Now thoroughly teaches you the culture of the battle, he added, after which he struck the turning man directly into the blow. His head immediately plunged underground. Solve your hands, because old people are the treasures of the family. We need to treat them with love. Grandfather continued his speech, although the purpose of his appeal most likely did not hear him. Oh, it seems that they have already begun, so it's time for me to teach you a couple of lessons, the ice man who watched everything from the side said. A moment later, the atmosphere changed dramatically. Huge ice rods grew over the back of the old man, and under each place where he stepped, an ice growth formed, which was sharp, icicles sticking out in all directions. His eyes glowed blue and he himself could turn into the ice anything and anyone. Freezing at 10,000 li, the old man said a spell and from the mimal circle of his hand formed from his hand, ahead, as if an ugly ice had rushed the explosion, burning the earth with himself. Ah, how fast! I have not had time to do anything yet, and half of my body is frozen, the teacher of the green hairstyle shouted, who recently harassed the mother of Xiao. Crap, it's too painful for me, he screamed, a blonde standing nearby in the same ice trap, which is also a fan of a young white-haired mother. All the rest of the teaching staff, including the vice-rector, managed to break out of ice tongues and bounce to the were struck by the power of the magic of this old man. Teacher Bin and Teacher Dean are still strong. Arouses respect, deriving the projector set as a sign of respect for his former teachers. Also to warn his group. Roll of a hurricane, the name of his spell, pronounced the name of his spell, after which a green magic circle formed at his middle forefinger. Teacher Bin accept the attack. A huge whirlwind at high speed escaped from the created and magical. He headed towards the old man. Hot. What is this breeze? Teacher Bin is busy now. I will be your opponent, the bald old man said, pointing to himself with a finger. Barrier of divine light, he added, after which a large red magic circle appeared under his feet. Fortunate barrier spread. One little barrier of the divine light was able to defeat my wind. Languages, the vice-rector spoke angrily, looking at the old man that he had so easily got rid of his attack. Try this technique, the vice-rector shouted, after which he began to glow with green on his hand. A strange mark of the same color formed. Having concentrated all the energy at one point, the vice-rector inflicted a blow directly to the barrier. The exact impact, he shouted, and his fist whistled with a barrier cracks immediately, and from such power alone it is no wonder, the old man thought, because 40 years ago he was the hero of the military magic university, Chen Feng, and became the first person after the rector managed to conquer both directions. At the age of 45, he already took the post of vice-rector of the University of Mo. 10 years later, his strength has only increased. Would have thought that you, small, will be so talented and can master both directions. Usually people spend their whole lives to develop the skills of one species, You could master both this and that. The first generation of rector would probably be proud of you," the old man said, while his barrier scattered into chips. "I conducted an investigation and found out that you left the post of teacher at the University of Manhwa 5 years ago. Without an invitation, he came to our university and became a guest old man. Although you used to be," he talked about the rector. The bags under his eyes showed how much energy takes a similar blow. Breeze, having frowned his grandfather, preparing for the upcoming attack. And now, a moment, a fist and there was a roar from the contact of two strokes. It seemed the space itself was twisted from the power of these two. Breeze, sometimes it is better for young people to modify their ardor. A lot of knowledge can cause trouble, the old man said. Meanwhile, the consequences of their blow became more and more nightmare. Huge puffs of smoke gathered around, raised by an explosive wave. It seemed that any careless traveler would throw back much a dozen meters ago he had been nearby. But it seems a terrifying roar coming from the tower. Interrupted tower itself seemed to tremble from such a powerful sound. What kind of sounds come from the tower? The mother's mother asked immediately, because it is natural for her mother to worry about her child. Suddenly, splashes of blood on a dark background appeared. The son has a problem. It seems there is no other way. It will be necessary to use this. She rushed about in doubt, not knowing what to do. Son, Mom wants to spend many more years with you. The right eye turned black, and the pupil is the left, under which the mole was painted with yellow-orange. Head. So everything is in order with your son in any case. This monster was unlucky. Now stop, the old man shouted, realizing that this is much more important than their skirmishes with the projector. Truth? She asked, sincerely interested in the well-being of her son. I think he is not lying. A giant blue frosty beast confirmed the words of the old man. Okay, I believe you. So I can spend a few more years with my Shasa recently. It is more difficult for me to restrain my strength, she said, while tears were full of her eyes. Rest in the same red outfit and holding a staff in his right hand stood directly opposite the giant portal. Only for a moment, but the gate spotted it in the southern desert. Okay, I understood, he said. At the same time, blood spilled in the Tower of Empty Souls. Our favorite healthy man lay on the floor, letting the foam with his back. There was a huge lacerated wound, and blood flowed from it right on the cold floor. Lay. We will assume that you are lucky. A couple of fragments fell on you. If I had not groped for a butcher's knife that my father carefully kept, then you would have already been torn to shreds. The son is without analysis, the protagonist holding a bloody knife of decent size in his right hand. The monster seemed to be crazy because he could not find us. Extremely. Everything around began to smash us. Disgusting and possibly wounded, Lin added, enraged that for a long time could not catch his dinner. The monster aimed in the throat, and saliva began to drip from his mouth. His mouth was so huge that he could easily swallow all three and not even notice. Meanwhile, the weapon of our main character broke completely, having become unusable, not surprisingly given how many monsters were killed by him. Favorite dad's sword. When I returned to the ground, he would turn my neck for him. Ha ha ha, said Xiao, looking at the half of the once great blade in his hand. Despite the fact that he broke, Uncle still has a chance, he said confidently, discarding a more ineffective piece of metal to earth. Having touched his hands first, and then his whole body with energy, he seemed to rush towards the enemy, as if a quick wind. Uncle will kill you with one blow, he shouted, inflicting a truly terrifying blow. But at the last moment the toad manages to jump in the place of where it was supposed to be at the time of the blow. A huge shock wave that blows everything in its path formed. What kind of? Yes. This frog turned into a person and learned to show the middle finger, he shouted, seeing how the enemy who avoided the attack looked at him and showed obscene gestures. Hey, this speed does not fit your dimensions, monster. Allow your uncle to hit you once, only once. Okay. He spoke to the monster, trying to take it weakly. For several seconds, one-handed monster just stupidly looked at him. After that, the giant pressure of water burst directly from her mouth, flooding everything around. Damn it, you are in saliva? How mean, you can't win in battle, and immediately vowing with saliva. Be older, are you a child? Standing a knee in the saliva of a giant frog. Agile than he was before, it is unlikely that I will be given the opportunity to hit him again. That's it. I don't know how to swim, Xiao shouted, realizing what kind of turned out to be situations. I also do not know how. I am afraid of water, I answered with my fright to his fright crumb. Likely the reason for her fear of water was her cat's nature. Woundedly continued to wallow, slowly drowning in the jib oral liquids. Girl on the beach. Despite the fact that my sister was sewed, the duck is still lying around with me. They say in his head a sweet yellow inflatable duck in which no child could calmly swim. And for an inflatable duck I, unfortunately, are my draft forces and are still not strong enough, so you don't have to count on the call of the motorboat. He added in his hands a blown-up water tow. Inflating on the ass, in the end. Who came up with this? After I return to the ground, I will definitely stuff several ducks in this genius, he said. And he blushed in the process of inflating the tow. The expression on the face of the duck could lead to strange. The girl already dragged Lee closer to shout. "Ah, how good it is," said the hugging his new inflatable friend. Meanwhile, Lin, experiencing a similar feeling, was embraced by big man Lei at the very end, hanging down. He seems to have nothing to breathe. Meanwhile, the giant representative of the family of frogs did not lose time and swam in his own liquids in search of the victim. It is amazing how so many liquids fit in his body. Probably the whole thing is in magic. Our heroes relaxed on an impromptu boat, thinking that all the worst is already, did not even suspect that the giant monster was already right under them. Suddenly, the sixth sense of the protagonist was in danger. Danger, he shouted, immediately recovering, and thereby notified the rest of those present about the impending threat. Strong wind. Listen to my team, he said, creating a magic circle with a free hand. Huge power. A gust of wind burst directly from his hand, creating a windbag, which whistled with a whistle along the neck of the monster floating nearby. The blow of such a force caused large waves, and the monster screamed in the whole throat in pain. Why can you use the magic of the wind? The cutie with soft ears and a bell around his neck was interested in tightly holding for him. When the magician's soul reaches a certain level, then you can begin to use other types of simple magic, he answered as briefly as possible, trying not to waste time for chatter. He was still busy using spells in order to save their lives. However, she will not have such a force as that of the adjacent type of magic, he added, continuing to this time. Lee seemed to feel the breath of death on his back of his head. He returned again, shouted, and, with the help of wind magic, accelerated his impromptu raft as trying to increase the distance between them and the monster. Ha ha ha, yes. This is a reactive boat. I got it ahead. It seems there is a small platform. Let's go up to it, he said, as soon as they broke away from the monster. It turns out that this column with the image of a frog, he said, seeing what was at the top of this type, you can say thanks to the drooling of the toad. Climbing up, he was delighted to say, ah, sitting on a hard stone is so nice this time. We are definitely safely. Lying nearby was only glad that he no longer had to fight for survival with water. But their calm quickly violates the toothy lizard, which stowed in her mouth into the column on which our heroes took breath. Sitting at the top of the pillar immediately, all three. This was a big surprise. Apparently they underestimated the intelligence of the monster. It seems that this is a damn creation of the mind. How did it find out what we are here? If it breaks the column, then I no longer know what to do, said the shout, completely knocked down from the sense. Now we'll fall in unison, the heroes remaining in the mind of the mine. When the tower began to roll aside, about to plunge under the water, the uncle should come up with something as soon as possible. It makes no sense to enter into a fight underwater. Our only chance to win to bring him to the surface, otherwise, said Xiao, trying to maintain balance on a falling stone block. Now we will fall off, the cute companion added him, falling to her knees with both hands by the stone. Invented, Xiao said, pointing his finger up. It seemed a wonderful thought that had just visited his bright head. I remember how the fishermen used electric boots in the village. It was only necessary to lower it into the water. How small fish losing consciousness, and large people jumped out, he said. Attention, now fishing with electricity and using explosives is strictly prohibited by law. Now the monster is underwater, but he will not be able to hit him with such force that this huge one loses consciousness. But this will become possible if it is a huge one to feel bad and jump out of. The main thing for Xiao is not to miss the moment for the attack. When asked how to knock him down at the moment he jumps, I have nothing. Dagger and knife was broken. Ordinary kitchen knives are too weak here. Such thoughts visited him when he recalled all the broken weapons used today. While he was considering the plan as if to defeat the offender, that turn, the tackle of the column, from which it instantly began to plunge under the water. Ah, here's the hell, we are falling, he screamed, shaking like a children's toy which was about to lose his balance and fall. There is no time to think, let him first jump out of the blow with electricity. And then we will figure it out, he screamed a couple of seconds before diving. This larger, is really heavy, Lin spoke, was dragging by the leg of the unconscious. Sha began to concentrate power in his hands, from which they again declared small lightning similar to cracks on red glass. After a couple of seconds, his whole body was already embraced by red flashes, such a large amount of energy. The air turned under his feet. The element of lightning, he exclaimed, when he realized that he had accumulated enough energy to strike. Do I need to scream anything? He thought, after which he decided not to waste time and began to transfer the energy of his hand right under him. After a moment, he used his second hand to convey as much energy as possible in as long as possible. The giant red streams of electricity, or smashed from all eyes, were red, and the water under it was saturated with a huge amount of electricity. The bubbles of air began to slowly go from under the water, after which the horns and the top of the head of their offender appeared there. Suddenly a giant head jumped out of the water, roaring in the throat of the pain brought by electricity. In less than half a second, the creature completely jumped out of the water, exposing all her vile but incredibly powerful body. Now I'll try to use an already proven attack, the hero shouted, recalling how he suddenly attacked him in a fight in the backyard of the school. Movement of the healthy man and said, you are helpless in the air. Even if you can foresee my movements, this will not help. He won't hide, he shouted, approaching 10 times the enemy than his times. And so he jumped right to the level of the monster's eye, forming a cloud of magical power, and his monsters themselves were clearly dumbfounded by how he was caught. Call, I need something that can save my life. I need to deal with this huge monster, he said, preparing his right hand. The universe, hearing his desire, sent him a disc with an adult. This is exactly what can save least for such a person as Shao. So, this is what I dream about in the face of death. Ha ha ha. With tears in his eyes, he cursed his gout. Lin watched this, peeping through her, could not hide the embarrassment on her face and handed over the funny sound. What, perhaps this is the first time she saw pornography live. This is the last edition. You can't find such a thing anywhere else. Do you understand this or not? The main character asked, but in response he received only silence. Goodbye, my youth, farewell. Sandine, Chongthan and baby Hongju, I will love you forever, he shouted his dying speech while tears poured his face, after which he directed all his energy to the box with a disc for adults. Witness, work for me, he shouted, and that the forces threw his strength with his reinforced hand directly into the giant toad. The box fell right into the upper jaw of the monster. The power of the blow was monstrously big that the monster changed the path of flight. Reveal him, lightning disc, Sha shouted, concentrating his power in the disc, which he had previously pulled out of he was preparing to make a throw. A moment later, at a huge speed, the disc flew by, dissecting the air directly to the slightly nasty sound. He seemed to be thrown up to the monster, starting to cut it. The monster cut into two halves, the stench of hot meat spread everywhere, and the blood began to paint the water. Goodbye, the heroine of the film, whose disc was used as a gun, shouted goodbye. Goodbye, the main character mentally answered him. It was a very important farewell. Realizing his loss, he flew uncontrollably down, while tears dripping from his eyes rose up the winds of wind up. Lin immediately put her small delicate hands to grab a falling comrade. I can't understand what she has such an expression on her, either from the fact that he used the element of lightning, or from the fact that he experienced mental trauma, but in any case, he was without a concept. He spoke in his hands, blue cat of the girl. Dear Chassis, this time, everyone relied on you. Thank you for my salvation, she told the guy in her arms and smiled at the happiest smile in the world. Anyone would be glad if the object of adoration personally took care of his safety. My rare edition, my rare disc, while Shao cried, and his thoughts were completely absorbed in loss. Without losing his opportunity, gently kissed him on the cheek. But the hero did not care. The loss of an adult video clearly bothered him more. At the same time, Lolita appeared outside the turret of empty souls. Finally got it, a girl in a white hat said a high voice. An amazing plant staff appeared before our eyes, the base of which was like a strong stem of an intertioning to the top, and decorated it at the top of his eyes, peering out as if from the mouth of a predatory flower. The staff itself radiated a beautiful green aura. Soon we saw the owner itself. Stop fighting you, the young virgin said. Incredible was dressed in a white pink outfit with many lace and a bow on her chest. She also had a giant white hat with a pink strap to which another pink bow with a flower in the center was attached. A rose hung on the edge of the hat. Her hair resembled springs and were bright yellow, which shimmered in the darkness of the eyes shone with turquoise. The fiery lion and womanizer continued to fight, not paying any attention to the baby who appeared suddenly. The old man and the projector acted in the same way, completely ignoring the girl hanging in the air. They parted their great. Do not even notice me, but do not expect that I will stand here idle, like a poor relative, she said, in her thin, arrogant magic. The conclusion chain, a huge green magic circle with many pentagrams on it, appeared behind. Spellbird's pupils disappeared, and countless tentacles stretched from below to her. I cannot use my strength, very wise sealing magic, much cooler than mine, the red-haired teacher said, finding her hands in the blocks. Even the old man and I can't do anything about it, the vice rector added, finding exactly the same pads in his hands. Damn it, this is a girl. She found us by surprise, the bald bumble. The rector was cheating. It cost us to weaken vigilance, as they themselves fell into a trap and turned into ordinary people, the fiery old man complained. You fought so hotly, so you did not hear that the grandmother was talking to you to satisfy, she said with a finger at all those present. Ice snake, I order you not to move, otherwise you will get it. Consider that a woman saved you to your head. Grandfathers look very young. Looking at the giant ice snake and his beautiful horseman, it seems that I have already seen this sister somewhere, Mothersha said. Director is still as hot-tempered as before. A terrible woman, he added, a giant snake, clearly frightened by the power of this Lolita. The old woman quickly let us go here. The issue of life and death is being decided. The old man with perverted inclinations was indignant. Who did you call the old woman? She staff right there, as the spring stretched out, hitting the old man who offended her right in the jaw. Isn't you constantly calling yourself a grandmother? Besides, I remember so. You are a year older than me. The old man spoke his defense. Turtles, he also laid the campaign to the Tower of Empty Fools. If they find out how it will affect the reputation of the university. Director with an evil but sweet expression on his face reported. Airy University has been holding the brand for many years and has never been ridiculed by other educational institutions on the continent, she screamed, holding the old man who enraged her by the scalp. Her eyes turned out to be red as blood itself. Her teeth were sharp like a shark. She was terrible in anger. When this is a collapse in the troubles. But you are not at the university for the first 100 years. Do you know the rules? She screamed, pointing her finger at the elderly who came to the rescue. Her anger is clearly enough for everyone. This is all because we sat in the nursing home. We wanted to prove the bones. The old people began to make excuses, clinging to each other in this way, trying to seem as innocent as possible. Shopping center, it seems that it was a mistake to put you in the nursing home to enjoy life in the declining years, she said, looking at them with a little sadness in her eyes. Are vampy souls on the ground floor. Whether he is alive or already dead. You need to go save him, the old man screamed, desperately trying to help his mother save his son from the clutches of death. Hearing this, she immediately switched her attention from an iceman and a fiery lion to our old man. Grandmother had not turned into Lolita by mistake. Now there would be more. A sexy sister, she screamed, and by force pushed the staff into her mouth to the old man, along the way, helping her foot. You had no great wealth before turning into Lolita. The old man continued to bend his line, despite the mockery of the sigh. You are speaking the truth, she said, with a clearly displeased expression on her face and, turning her finger, pulled the pads in her arms even harder. They slammed even stronger, the old man shouted from more in his hands. Mirror of a great emptiness, Lolita shouted, lifting her herbal staff into the air. The green magic circle formed on the tip of the staff, creating the streams of wind around which the girl's hair developed beautifully behind her. Look, she said, while the image was formed in front of them. They are now in complete security, she said, nervous, when a scene appeared on the screen. A dark girl kisses the crying shout. For life outside the towers, but to death, to save him. And this small inside decides love, oh God, for what all this is to me, cried the angry grandfather and began to beat his head on the ground. They still did not disappoint me, with a smile, the vice-rector, who clearly worried about the fate of those three more than it seemed in appearance. The same as his father suffers from an excessive female attention, mother said, blurring in a smile and remembering her husband. Everything, they are completely safe. In addition, I found out that the monsters from the first level were completely defeated by them, the rector said, with an expression of indifference on her face. Even that role category, The magic frog was killed, she continued, while on the screen they showed the moment with cutting into half a giant frog. However, the ban for 30 days still needs to be fulfilled. There are rules. Tomorrow I will dispose of the 3 to be brought food, she said, with a displeased expression on the young face. Someone has objections? She asked everyone present. The main thing is that shall she be safe, thank you. Sister, a pleasant woman with white hair still standing on the head of an ice snake, said cordially. The mine. If she called me a sister. Oh, then I'm still in the juice. I was immediately embarrassed and blushed, the harsh and not outstanding signs of Lolita's pity. What great people looked into our remote edges, she added, trying to cover her embarrassed look with a hat. In the future, the university will no longer be quiet and peaceful, she thought, after which she soared the air and flew away. At this time, in the empty shower tower, our hero slowly came to his senses after the most difficult battle in his life. Ah, how comfortably I slept, feelings that slept on something very soft, nice, he said, tossing and howling from feeling was as if a huge sweet cotton wool enveloped him from all sides. Awoke, Lin said, who used her knees as a pillow for our rest normally after that, possibly for their personal reasons. Where is the water? Didn't we drown? He began to sharply ask her, Xiao, grabbing her shoulders. Too close. At that moment, a dumbfounded cat was thinking to herself, after the frog died, the water disappeared. Therefore, we did not drown and did not die. Lily woke up either, she said, embarrassedly taking her eyes away. Ah. Yes. This water was a manifestation of the power of that frog. So after the death of the monster, water energy returned to the great void. Xiao spoke with a smart look. Rubbing his chin with his girl carefully listened to him, as if a teacher. You can eat, I have prepared something delicious for you, said Weather, a huge piece of meat, holding a huge piece of meat in his left hand, and in his right he created a flame that he used for cooking. And the truth smells delicious, our hero answered, whose chin had already flowed with saliva from hunger. Not bad. Guys, who would have thought that you could defeat a magic frog? Climb to the next floor to find me, I can give you a powerful power. A loud voice came from the depths of the tower. Who says this? The company was alarmed right away. The next floor? Lee asked, who did not have time for preparation. He decided to use the meat as a weapon. Son's bitch walks around the bush if there is enough courage. Go down, uncle, and others call you to battle, the main character said, preparing to fight. Next to him in a combat pose stood Lin and looked around the void. In the original world, power is all power. Money, desire depend on strength. Do you want this? He asked a mysterious voice. Damn it, this is a magical effect. Lin Si Li, do not listen to what he says, shouted, understanding what his opponent is achieving. In the original world, power is money. Desires depend on you want this. We want, his partners stated in chorus. Their eyes seemed to have lost brilliance and were directed to nowhere. Most likely someone else took possession of their minds. Ashti shouted and thought, probably. This is an ancient monster locked upstairs. Seems that his call can fascinate even through a seal. This can only mean that it is very powerful magic call. This cannot continue, otherwise they will be both of danger. Allow the uncle to break your damn spell. Monster on the top floor. Listen carefully. You are an orphan. Our hero said, began his treatment with direct insults. It must be a lot of go in a past life, since in this life I meet one dirt from under the nails of my dad. It is probably difficult for you because of this. You could not from a lack of love in childhood grow a large formidable monster. And there is no one to warm you with a long cold night, continued his mental attack by Xiao. Gun to appear hallucinations, is insomnia overcame, has it more. Did you stop feeling a man? He continued, showing the middle finger somewhere upwards, and absolutely do not feel the threat of my enemy. Ah, the kidneys are fine, you are a bitch son, why didn't my spell act on you? Disgusting, nah, it's not the time, wait a little, today I will leave you but we will meet you. The mysterious voice answered, what just happened? As if something climbed into our heads and confused all thoughts, the dumbfounded Lin and Li, who only got out of hypnosis, spoke. La tricks against children? Are you just a miserable chicken in a cage? Do you want to mock chick like us? He continued in a joke of the angry protagonist, concentrating the power of his pumped hand. Dastard, you enrage me, calm down and wait for death. The mysterious voice continued, even more to wind himself, on which the jokes and lifting up the child clearly acted. Strongest of all monsters are closed here, you will angry them, and we all will not say goodbye. Was immediately indignant, who barely survived the previous fight, but it was only on the ground floor. Out of captivity without them, he tries to use us so that we pull it out. By the way, I remembered this great example saved the world. Uncle this manga with positive energy may open up to your spirit. You just need to be a strong spirit and not succumb to the influence of the charms. That's all we need, glated in one breath. Why so quiet? Did he ask. Probably the monster was gone, Lin answered. Nothing is afraid of anything here. I scolded him. And since he did not go out to give us under the ass, it means that he couldn't get out. Otherwise, we would have been dead for a long time. He still dares to talk to us, he dreamed. Moron, he answered, to happy with himself. Xia, eating a huge piece of meat prepared by a big man. My meat. Somewhere against the background was indignant. It makes sense, it means that he really can't get to us, Lin said, hitting his palm with the fist as soon as she realized what was said by the main character. It seems like that, but I don't want to run into our task, cause not to be taken to his tricks. And then everything will be fine. Speaking of this, with the help of a smile, hide his excitement, to which Xiao replied to him, guys, let's stay together. Despite the fact that we destroy most of the monsters, we cannot know for sure whether there is still anyone else at that level, so we can support each other. Cared, Lin said, to which everyone answered, after which she began, you shall see. And how do you know all this? You are so cool. How many years you have been performed in this year? She asked our hero. Soon. 635 years. Hi, he's smiling. Our hero answered and showed a goat. Even younger than me, Lin giggled and added, Li. And you? She asked. A healthy man answered something. He was clearly embarrassed and combed his head. He ha. He looks like he is 20. He began to laugh and poke his finger. It would seem already an adult. I am only 10. But I look older because I use the knowledge of my ancestors to absorb a large amount of vital energy in a short time, and it greatly developed my body. And so I am a simple poor man who could take first place in the test, Li answered embarrassedly, scratching his head. And how much do you? Lin see? The guys asked in response to their companion. Her face immediately changed. It seemed that the whole atmosphere was saturated with a thirst for blood. I am 6 years old. I am the one that people call a stranger. My mother is a man, and the father of the orc, and I am going to kill him with my own hands. Two guys immediately crowded and stuck to each other, trying to find salvation from a comrade. The subject of the conversation is faster, cried a healthy man, unable to withstand the pressure. And I don't need a lot in this life, Xiao spoke, trying to change the subject. I just want to return home, he added while the memories filled his mind. I don't know how my parents are on Earth. Do they remember me? Can I return? He asked himself, while in his memories there was an image of his room with monitors, figures and posters on the walls. Oh, for sure I'm calling for a diary, he shouted, and a pink book with the inscription diary magically appeared in his hand. And this is a strange magic of calling. Earth, is this his homeland? This bastard, it turns out, still knows the draft magic. I also need to continue to work. Only this is how I can compare with him. I am still far from it, I added. We need to record today's events, so that later, when I return to the Earth, to show my mother, he said, and immediately set to work using a pencil, which he called with the diary. Dad, Mom, today I got in the school tower, removed a lot of small with me are two classmates. One boy and one son. In this world is very interesting, and live well. I also have a new mother, loving me with all my not worry about me. Here everyone is very kind to me. In addition, I am now only 5 years old, so I do not need to rush me to marry. Classmates are also only 6 years old. When I return, do not ask me why I did not run after us what I wrote. It will be not enough. Let's turn the page. This is my mother's handwriting from the ground, he said. As soon as he saw the text that was clearly written not to them, the plastic figure of an anime girl melted in the fire next to the stone on which my son Heju's grave was written. Son, 5 years have passed. You have grown old very suddenly. Your mother is very worried. However, you will not be lonely. Your mother burned all your desktop dolls in front of your grave. Previously, your mother forbade you to play with such things. Mother is bad. But now every year on July 12th is July 1 too. I remembers you. Each time I burn new dolls for you. This year I burned for you the figure of day then Hui. Today I saw your diary when cleaning. I could not stand it and wrote a little. Mom is very bored. Mom. Such sad lines were read by our hero. The heart of Xiao was smashed to smithereens. Few could read this without experiencing any. This is his family. Dolls. Every year. Burned. Day then Hui. He repeated while blood flowed from a crack in his chest. It seemed that he would not survive this moment. A diary. Suddenly felt pain and was inconsolably upset. He really values with family feelings, Lin said, whose eyes were already in a wet place. His lips trembled, and the cheeks blushed with sadness. Even their hands did not find rest constantly. A variable dress. Ah, shall see. Everything is in order with you, she asked. My wives, I haven't been gathered yet. Say, Guan Jui, Violetta, Saber, Lei Mu, Quan San, Old Luke. Lailing our hero listing the names of all his figures, while his soul slowly left the body. The 29th day, in the Tower of Empty Souls. Revive tomorrow, and we are free first. Let's relax exactly, Sister C. Today you still go to bed nearby. I warn you, relax. I definitely will not be disobediently pranks only specially, Sao said. Okay, I believe you, the embarrassed Lin answered. That's how they were in such a situation. I did not give rest the thought of. Li. Why are you going to go to me every night? You also breathe on my face, God Law. Where do your hands wander? And how should I turn to you? Face or back? Ah. Heavy. Strange sounds came from the mysterious door that we have visible earlier. With a rustle, a hand, although rather a paw, consisting of black and stable matter, slipped out of the door. Stony. Because of you I had to generate energy for 20 days. And now, finally, I could spend a little through the seal. Ha, consider. You are dead. I will teach you a lesson. A terrible dark essence shouted, similar to a demonic shadow. Younger, you will become my dinner. Take it for honor, he screamed in his throat. The mysterious clots of dark energy, publishing a characteristic nose, headed towards our heroes. Having passed through a kind of portal, they were already here. Dark matter with a thin stream began to penetrate the head of Lin directly across the forehead. Our main character was a little less lucky, and black fog, like an evil tentacle, began to penetrate through the mouth. Lin received his portion of darkness through the right ear. Oh, this small one just sees a dream, haha. Let's play a little with you. We will see if you will be as cool as before, the shadow monster shouted when you saw a dream in the minds of our hero. Carefully, our hero spoke in a dream while in an adult body and, apparently, conducting a lecture to the university. He held a pointer in his right hand, and his students looked like typical perverts. Today, the X will be as my assistant. Please come here. Your figure is just suitable to clearly study a human body, he said. I invite the woman to enter. Eli, insolent again. You take me in the model. Are you not able to spend a little money and buy mannequin? The figured student was indignant. She was clearly unhappy that she would have to pose again. Oh. Where does the poor teacher like me to get money for such an inventory? To give in once, I will gain another student and buy one figure, De Xiao said, embarrassedly, who in a dream looked clearly much more attractive than in life. Faster, students still need to listen to a lesson. I do not want to take time from them immediately. Our hero began to adjust her, and his face broke into an obscene smile, which is difficult to hide. Good. Each time you come up with some strange reason. The student was embarrassedly indignant with her. Hands under her face was sweetly filled with taint. Even such an old man as me, who has been on the original continent for countless years, has never seen the world like this. In addition, there are too many details for a simple dream. The monster thought, watching the protagonist what was happening, and is not surprising, because our hero is not because of this world. Ah, it must be this, and so much energy over the past 20 days, trying to get rid of this boy. There are many secrets in this little body. Perhaps he has artifacts of reincarnation, continued his own thinking. A dark monster. Assistant X, thank you for becoming a model for me. How do you want me to pay you? Our hero asked, pressing a student against the wall. Teacher, don't enough. An embarrassed model unlocked for posing. Lord, I'm just sleeping now. It seems that not it even hurts me a little, he thought, pinching his cheek. From such excitement, blood has already surged from the nose, and the face took a more natural, obscene expression. Meanwhile, in reality, Dad, do not leave. Do not leave me. Lin pinched the cheek of the protagonist of crying and turning in a dream from a nightmare. A smelly boy. It is good for you in this dream. From birth, no one treated me so cruel to me. Let me repay you for that. Let me reincarnate this girl and play with you. Hi he said the monster and got into the body of a sleep student. Do not be shy. I'm a good person, he said, shout, not noticing the substitutions. He giggled to himself. A monster, realizing that his plan is about to pretend to life, licked his lips. He began his nightmarish performance. Teacher, stop. Everyone is looking at us. Wait. Small. Now the deity will send you to heaven from pleasure, the girl said by pushing Sha from herself. The students have already left, only to remain her. Why am I so brave today? I feel that I can do everything I wish. It seems that I'm in a dream. Then come, teacher Smelty Small, said the monster, playing his role as an innocent student. Swinging her hands in all directions, she prepared her strongest blow, the sliding flight of a dragonfly. And then the fingers that there is urine clung to the nipples of the protagonist right through that strong fingers squeezed them with all their might. Young man, you can be proud that the revered herself deceived you, the monster said, in the body of a girl who pulled the hero's poor nipples to some unrealistic distance from the body. Sha had no choice but to grab the face and scream from unbearable pain. Wait, revered, what the hell, he thought. Revered, in any way, this is the hell of a dog from the Tower of Empty Souls. Well, he was drowning out of here. Our hero was indignant in his thoughts. Unfortunately, in a dream, I can't kill him, but in my power to mock him a little like that. There is little time left, and the majority still need to have time to plant the seeds of their consciousness in the world of knowledge of these smelly children, the dark monster said. And here it is, the sea of knowledge of this squire is very large. It means that its spiritual power is great. It is not surprising that the last time he did not get on my call, the monster black with a red mouth and eyes reasoned. Miss that he received a blessing from some important bump, that now it will belong to the great to me, he said, seeing the blue crystal shrouded in red chains somewhere deep in the soul of the manhua. Having absorbed it, I will have a chance to rise to the level of the creators, he said, after which he opened his mouth wide in order to absorb the crystal. And now the crystal was in the paste of the monster. But it is not easy to live, the monster spoke, trying to absorb the crystal. That the crystal did not succumb and began to emit a bright yellow glow in all directions. What happened? Highly I washed the monster, grabbing the neck where the newly swallowed crystal was. A bright orange color began to come out of his mouth, and he seemed to be shook in pain. Your mother, the defender left by the creator. He was indignant when the crystal left his magic circles, pure under him and above him, enveloping him with luminous wagons. A moment later, our hero teleported directly to the monster. So, then, who burst into the sea of my consciousness, the bastard that has just ruined my dream, the obviously evil, from the lost opportunity to relax in a dream, asked our hero. How long have I had no such good sleep, and you dared to encroach on him? Sha asked him from anger. This is my sea of consciousness, my world, everything is in my power, he said with a grin, pointing his finger at his offender. Behind him, a spiked collar and leather belts were materialized from nowhere. A moment later they rushed towards a dark monster imprisoned in the pewts at great speed. Stony, what a hell! Other revered, close to God, let me go and I can still be useful to you, I yelled. A monster, chained in a chain, latex and leather belts. I urge one of the 10 hidden types of weapons, Slade, the main character cried out, and pink shoes materialized in his hand, or rather a slate. Son, yes, you cannot protect yourself, and you still dare to quietly get into my body, Shao said, while mercilessly beat his dark offender. How do you say? Should I contact you? I smiled. The devil's smile, asked our hero more, who was going to the villain, while holding the slate in his left hand. Dad, let's talk, the revered. He screamed in pain, trying to cause pity for his person. A huge bump crawled out on the spot in which he was beaten with a shale. Honored, are you still revered? Asked Chow, immediately inflicting another blow with a shale on another cheek of a trendy creation. You just, without the consent of the uncle, made his way to his body, and I can sue you for harassment, the revered, he said Chow, while methodically beating the face of the poor monster with shoes. Damn you, the old man in front of you is the king of dark elements of evil. When the revered hit on the continent, your grandfather's great-grandfather was not even born. Do not seal me. Let it go, the completely beaten and crushed king of the dark elements of evil. Old man, grandfather, who else? I'm your uncle now. Say what you wanted to do when you climbed into my body. Our hero spoke of another blow to the king's face. He was clearly not worried who he was and what was. Old, I'll look at you at my age. Let me take you as a student. I will be your mentor, the monster screamed, with pain and anger. And you still can't get into it, the main character said, once again a slate over his head to strike. A moment later, a hail of blows flew right towards the dark essence in revenge for rough behavior towards our hero. Do you still think that I am a 5-year-old kid? He asked King Shao, pulling him by the cheek. You sealed dog, a king of dark garbage. Do you think that you can become my master, you say, or not? Why did my body make your body out? He asked the angry Shao, bringing the slate over his head again. This child is not so easy to deceive. So be it, I no longer intend to endure such an appeal, the Dark King said, indignantly. You are smelly, a child, revere. I'll use you to plant the seeds of my mind in your sea of knowledge, and in the future, when they sprout, I will absorb you. So I would finally was able to leave this prison, the Sink finally admitted. So he wanted to absorb us. He did not expect that the creator left a trap for such idiots like you said, Shaun. Sea of uncle's knowledge. Don't pull your pork paws to me, he screamed the villain when he saw that the guy pulled his hand in his direction, grabbing the king's neck and smiling viciously. Just tell me, are you not sealed? How could you separate your little clone to penetrate our spiritual consciousness? I have been sitting under this seal for tens of thousands of years. Despite the fact that it greatly constrained the possibilities of revere, this was not enough. In addition, for many years no one has strengthened it, so it slowly becomes weaker. It seems that smelly demon has died. And besides her, no one knows the sealing spell. The demon honestly answered, afraid that he would be beaten again. It is not surprising that you, bastard, were able to separate a little clone to penetrate the sea of my knowledge. Now that everything fell into place, let's get the score, said Shao, rubbing his chin and smiling maliciously. Accounts, what other are you? The revered generously answered your questions. The revered, fearing the reprisals immediately. Again, revered again. You are now my prisoner, and you still look at me down. I just recently recognized one forbidden technique that allows you to absorb the souls of elementary spirits, so I can practice, the main character said, immediately by hitting the king's head for impudence. For the impudence, F of its former power, having accumulated, barely broke through the seal. Would you let me go? The king of dark elements immediately changed the behavior and began to rub on the leg of the protagonist. Big brother, he added, folding his arms over his chest in front of him, and rounded the unfortunate cat to his eyes. On as you were, however, since you were locked on the top floor of the tower, it means that you still have enough strength. Speaking this, Shao began to resemble the demon, is much more than his enemy, born of chaos from the moment of its appearance. I have not submitted to anyone, even under fear of death. I will not become someone else's familiar, he said, taking the former form of the evil king. True. Then I will have to absorb you. It will strengthen my strength. I thought to conclude a 25-year-old equal contract with you. I also wanted to share with you to overcome the level of creation of the world. Well, forget about it and enjoy death, son of a bitch, our hero said, clearly trying to manipulate the king. You say that you know the way to overcome the level of creation of the world. In addition, do you want to conclude an equal contract for 25 years? The king of dark elements stated, in bewilderment. He immediately changed his face and became like a sweet dog who had just received praise from his owners. Deal as if he banged. Lived countless years. 25 years like a drop in the sea. The fact is that I have to break through the level of the original world, only then to confine her from a wave. A dark monster said seriously. Wait, small, do you belong to dark energy? The king asked the protagonist. What the hell is dark energy? I have no idea what you are talking about. Contrary to here, I became a 5-year-old boy, Sa said, getting his head. Be able to coordinate their actions and will only interfere with each other. Lazy to explain. I will put it a pan to my forehead. The king was clearly irritated by the ignorance of his future master. So, the hero asked, trying to understand where the forehead was at the gaseous monster. Oh yes, so the reddened monster moaned and thought, how strange, his hand makes me feel safe as with that person. Take me to hell. Yes, you, small, it turns out, have the energy of pristine chaos belonging to a mixed type thunder, bright and dark. The king of dark elements shouted from surprise. Interact only with the spirit of the same essence with him, but having the energy of pristine chaos. You can sign a contract with spirits of different energies. An explanation of the dark monster began. The light and the darkness. Here's the furious, however. The strangest thing is your predisposition to the light is hidden to deep. If you had not touched me, then I would not feel it at all, he said. Rector, it seems, said that I have a good combination of forces, but why didn't he say a word about the mixed type? Shao thought, recalling how the vice-rector touched him on the test with the ball, to which the king answered him, probably he himself did not know this. The light and the light, the darkness. There is an unlimited space for growth. You still do not understand what I am talking about, but I myself learned about this only by the will of the case. While you said, I remembered that after I managed to survive against the mental pressure of the head of the university, a black shadow appeared behind me. It must have been out of my dark essence burst out, he said, hitting his fist to both palm. Recalling how not so long ago I was involved with the vice-rector, a young age, belonging has already appeared the damned monster ha. In this case, the signing of the contract with you will not be considered an insult to my evil title, the King of Darkness noticed. Good, stop chat, we will sign a contract, Sha said, starting to draw a magic circle on the floor next to the monster. You shall see, and I, evil, today sign a 25-year-old equal contract. In grief and in joy, wealth and poverty, illness and health, both parties will love and take care of each other until the end of this agreement. They spoke in unison. What is wrong with the words of this oath? Thought Shao. This oath of the treaty on equality is really disgusting, evil thought. Signed finally. I have a source of energy now, I can show my true face, evil said, while the dark energy enveloped him. Small, look, do not stain your pants when you see the true appearance of the revered I am the strongest wolf god in history, evil spoke until it turned into its true form. What kind of dark wolf god? This is not your real appearance, Sha asked in complete shock, pointing a finger at the turning king of evil. Death is mortal, a voice from puffs of smoke came. The silhouette of the dog was visible through it. Small, you are probably frightened, having seen a powerful and stunning look of the revered H. Haas, our hero could not create a couple of words. He just stared with a sagging jaw, and the dog poked his finger at not knowing how to react. From the fog, it finally seemed to the body of the evil god of the neat legs were decorated with a gold bracelet, and the tail waved from side to side. Bark was declared by God of Wolves and presented his appearance. A small dog with earrings in the left ear and with a scar under the left eye, something reminiscent of husky. The red scarf was tied on her neck, and the eyebrows were frightened in a proudly evil manner. Life deception, what other dark god? A wolf? Yes, you are just a purebred gusky, damn an ordinary Shavka fury taking the puppy by the neck. It is impossible. This magnificent appearance was personally created by revered for a white wolf SI. No one else has the same on the original continent. I am the only one, the puppy answered him. And then the puzzle in the head of our protagonist finally developed. What? You are talking about the goddess of the wolf sea? It seems that the creator who sent me to this world, called Sea. She was a half-breed, like Lin Sea, he said. The Earth was originally a lifeless planet. I used the heart of your world to create various types of animals and other organisms. It turns out that I am your god creator. Unfortunately, people do not value this. Pollute my body. Destroy this helpless world. The hero about the words she said at that fatal meeting. You find yourself in the original world. Help my relatives, half-breeds or strangers. As they began to be called there later after my departure, they became vulnerable. No one can still protect them. Say that I do not give a damn about them. I can't return. She added sadly then. Are you a half-breed too? So, when Sea inhabited the earth, you created husky based on your image, said Shao. Dis could not forget me and therefore created the same husky that you are constantly talking about. Surely, when she looks at them, then remembers me with longing, the puppy answered him embarrassedly. That he had dark energy. People considered him an evil spirit. They constantly attacked him. So the beast, driven into a corner, was hardened and began to kill everyone who decided to become in his way. Wound. His strength left him, and when he made his last breath, thinking that in this world there is no something for which it would be worth continuing to live, the white goddess of the wolf appeared. What is the matter with you, dog? The beautiful goddess asked, with the eyes of the color of the sky and fluffy cute ears. With the help of her great power, she returned the wolves of life who had fallen as eternal sleet. Do not be a fight more, that if the next time there is no one nearby to save you. So take this scarf as a gift, she told the dog while she was stroked, after which she handed him a cute red scarf. And yet perhaps because your wool is so black, people are afraid of you and think that you are an evil spirit. You must be the Holy Spirit. I feel it. And if so, then you can change your own at any time. Look, it seems to me that you should add a little white. Ha ha ha. Do not be angry. People love little cute animals. She spoke with her angelic voice to her new furry friend. I don't know if the goddess will like my new look. Honey, black and white. This is probably what the girls like, he thought while he was sneaking up to her from behind. I have to conquer your heart and to get a lot of wise with you. The white goddess is a wolf. I was going, he thought about indecent things. But the damn stone prevented him from realizing his surprise for a she-wolf. He stumbled, he fell, "Oh, your mother, I am not used to this body, how could I disgrace it?" He thought to kiss his face in the ground. The goddess wolf turned around, hearing a strange noise behind him, and saw her woolen friend. She raised him in her arms and began to consider his new image. "She has beautiful bright eyes. And I just thought about such dirty things, what a animal I am still," Husky thought to myself. "Fool. You are very sweet," she thought, and she knows how to read thoughts, and maybe she just feels the mood of animals vary. Well, after her strength reached the level of creation, something terrifying could happen therefore. He so much wants to rise to this level and find out what happened. Where the hell the goddess she set off? I could not even think that she fell into a trap on the ground and could not return to the original world. However, the magical power of the creator should be limitless. How can the goddess be locked somewhere? I do not understand. I simply must go to the earth and save it so that it does not cost it. The dog said with confidence. Ha ha ha, honestly, you turned out to be a glorious small, so why was you locked in a turbidity tower? Sha asked, stroking the puppy on the head. Oh, it's just as nice. Perhaps this is due to the fact that there is an energy trace of the goddess in his aura. He should not find out that the revered person like it. I will not survive this. A few millennia ago, and I passed by the magic military school of the Wu and wandered into the pavilion of miraculous medicines, where I just drank an elixir of a pure spirit. Who knew that she would close me here? But I had not seen it for a long time, so that she comes to strengthen the seal. It probably has already died, the dog said, completely confident in his words and the correctness of his actions. A few millennia ago, the sorceress, probably. It was the creator and the first rector of the university. So, I drank someone else's elixir. And you have not incinerated right on the spot? Yes, you still have to say thank you, Chernish Shao said thoughtfully. What the Chernish is call me, and revered evil spirit immediately objected. A puppy on the nickname, standing in a sweet pose and led his tail.